life.
He's going to take the field? Yep. Love it. Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here. Only about one thing tonight, getting the W's, so got to be around the end to do that. Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checkered. You're fine. Nobody's got to run. Checker time, baby! Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the best car here, bud. Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job. Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend. What a weekend. Good job. Thank you.
And welcome back to Racing in the Draft. Thanks for joining again on a Saturday night in the middle of summer, in the middle of an absolute scorching heat wave on the East Coast. And I guess in Indy also. It's not quite as hot in Indy, though. It is warm, though. 90 degrees today, high 80s tomorrow. But the sun will bake, and the clouds will form, and we could see or not see rain tomorrow. It seems to be a real 50-50 chance on if we get to see any rain tomorrow. But either way, we are headed back to the Brickyard 400. I'm so glad that it was kind of interesting to watch them run the road course version of the Indy race, but I'm so happy that it's back on the oval, even though it can potentially be a little boring, but with this next-gen car, it's been at least much better. Now, the question is, will the aero blocking be a factor or not? The Xfinity race today was phenomenal. I wish they could figure out how to get this next-gen car to have a very similar aero type of package to the Xfinity car, but we have to deal with what we have. So either way, before we head to Indy, let's go back to the East Coast and look at Dover, where Denny Hamlin, I guess in a way, stole one from Chase Elliott. Yeah, I mean, good for Denny on winning that race, but man, that was absolutely Chase Elliott's to lose after leading, I think, 268 laps. Let's take a look at the optimal lineup. 238 laps. Absolute domination by Chase Elliott for the majority of that race. Denny Hamlin did lead 67 laps, but man, that was a clinic that was being put on early by Chase Elliott until some rain showers caused the field to kind of get flip-flopped and inverted, and that's the crazy thing about doing Draftkings and talking to Family Man last week, then the week prior, and the week prior, and the week prior. It's you could literally have what you think is an absolute amazing lineup, and everything's going to plan, and then with 10 laps left, a rain shower comes in, a weird caution, something happens, and you go from having a spectacular DFS day to barely making half of your money back. And literally probably 3 to 4 cars. I mean, today in the Xfinity race, if Sheldon Creed had been able to hold a top 5 position, I probably would have won $1,000. But instead, he fell back because of the late race issue, and I barely even made any money at all. I went from being, oh, this is going to be great, to, oh, this is not great, in the matter of like 5 minutes. Where, I mean, even in basketball and baseball and football, typically once you kind of get up there, you stay. Or, you may move a couple positions, but you don't like literally lose everything within 10 laps. This is the craziest daily fantasy sports, in my opinion, that there is. you can in football and basketball and baseball and those types of things, you can easily be watching and being like, okay, my quarterback's probably going to throw for another 50 yards, and I need that, and I need a touchdown. And if I get that, then I'm going to be in great position. Or if he doesn't, I'll be in okay position. Literally, the guy that's leading the race has an issue or a problem with 10 laps to go, and you go from winning money to almost not winning any money because of one driver. It has to be the most up and down, crazy fantasy sports that there is, and why I do it is beyond me. Because I mean, I've also had really good success. I've been on the good side of that. I mean, the time I won the Chrome Horn at Daytona, literally on the backstretch of Daytona, the massive big one happened. Michael McDowell ended up winning the race, and I won 10 grand. So I've been the benefit, and I've been on the losing side a lot more than the benefit side. But when you do win, it's typically a really big payday. But either way, the optimal lineup from Dover: Chase Elliott leading 238 laps, 120, almost 125 points at Dover is just, I mean, a good race at Dover is if you are between 80 and 100. And Denny Hamlin did have that. He had 88 points. Alex Bowman was 72. Bubba Wallace 54. Ty Gibbs and Austin Dillon bringing up the rear. And it kind of went as planned. It was three, kind of expensive drivers, three value drivers. You just had to figure out which three of the 15 expensive drivers and which three of the value drivers to put in to the pot. Now I know there's another like 8 drivers that were out there, but we could easily look on paper and be like, okay, SVG was not going to be one of the guys that was going to make it. And that's what I was saying last week, is you just eliminate those and you find which ones are probably going to end up doing well. I did not see Austin Dillon making the optimal lineup, finishing 15th. But because he was $5,300, it fits. So it's crazy. I love it. I hate it all at the same time. The great thing is I still enjoyed just watching NASCAR. But either way, our optimal lineup challenge after 21 races, it's a Hendrick Motorsports and Chevy for the most part up front. Alex Bowman, Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, and Ross Chastain. Denny Hamlin, William Byron, Ryan Blaney, Ryan Preece, all at the top of the heap. So mostly Chevys, 1 Toyota, and 2 Fords. So far right now it is Hendrick domination at the top of even the optimal lineup challenge. And tomorrow we could see very similar to what we saw last week, which I kind of called, which was either Hendrick or Joe Gibbs having a phenomenal day. Well, both of them ended up having a really good day. And if we kind of look, it was all Toyota and all Chevys, no Fords. And I think we're going to see something somewhat similar tomorrow. I'm not sure the Fords have the speed that they need at this style of track. They do super well at the super speedway style tracks, and they do really well when they get to about a mile, maybe a mile and a quarter or less style tracks. That's where that's where the Fords really start to shine. The intermediate style tracks, 1.5 mile, 2 mile, 2.5 mile, non-super speedways is where the Chevys and Toyotas have absolutely been dominant this year. But either way, last year's winner, Kyle Larson, after not doing well in the Indy race, getting a chance to come back and redeem himself at the Brickyard 400, he got that accomplished and done. Can Kyle Larson again turn his season around and get it? And it's not that he's having a bad set of races since the attempt at the double. It's not. It's the fact that it's not to the standards of what we expect from Kyle Larson. He's not finishing top threes. He's not winning. He's not leading a ton of laps. He's running top 15, top 10, and getting a 7th or 8th place finish. And that's just not what we're used to seeing out of Kyle Larson. But can Kyle Larson get back to victory lane? We will have to kind of take a look at the numbers and see. But either way, this is a very flat track, 9 degrees in the corners, which is about what it is at Martinsville. But they run speeds at least double, if not 2.5 times faster than what they run at a Martinsville track. It is 2.5 miles in length. It is the oldest racetrack, as far as I know. It's definitely the oldest oval in the world. It's the most famous oval in the world. But this race length is only 160 laps, which is kind of like what we see at Daytona for the second race there. So not a whole lot of laps to gain Dominator style points, and Dominator points will only be 112. So Dominator points will not be the main focus for our lineups. It will be much more running position, finishing position, and slash place differential. You can think about a Dominator, but within that Dominator status, what you're looking for is 3 drivers that are going to probably start up front, stay up front, and one of those 3 may end up having a kind of a dominant type of day. But typically, we don't see a lot of Dominator style points at these tracks. They get kind of spread out a little bit. It's not quite the same as Talladega or Daytona, where you'll have a ton of fast laps that are spread out. You'll have, a handful of drivers that will have the fast laps and laps led. So there is an opportunity for some Dominator points, but not a whole lot. Really, the big focus is going to be finishing position and place differential. Other tracks that we can compare to is Pocono. We were just there. It is very similar in style. Flat, not a whole lot of banking in the turns, 2.5 miles. Drafting does come into play, handling does come into play, but it's not very many laps. Michigan is only 200 laps. It's another one that's just a high speed style track, lots of drafting, and then you can put kind of a couple other tracks in this 4th position. You can put Gateway. You can put maybe even Nashville. The problem is they're smaller. New Hampshire is only a mile in length, but it's very flat. So Indy and Pocono really are the only 2 that kind of share a similar characteristic. And you can kind of throw Michigan in there because there is a little bit of handling that comes into Michigan, but the draft plays kind of a role. It is not the main concern like it is at Daytona, Atlanta, and Talladega. So Indy and Pocono kind of sit in their own little category by themselves. There's other tracks that you can kind of look at for comparisons, but they are their own little beast and have their own little segment of this little NASCAR world. So optimal lineups from Indianapolis last year and Pocono from just a few weeks ago. When we look, once again, it's 0 Dominators at the Indy race last year, 1 Dominator at the Pocono race from a couple weeks ago. And realistically, I mean, a 75-point day is a really, really good day for a 160-lap race. Chase Briscoe did lead 72 laps at Pocono earlier. Chase Briscoe qualified well, and he really wants to get a win at Indy. So watch for Chase Briscoe. He is starting from the pole today or tomorrow. The Indianapolis race from last year, as we can see, it was Austin Center coming from 38th to finish in 7th, so that's a place differential. Bubba Wallace starting 17th, finishing 5th. That's another place differential. If you want to know what I consider to be a place differential, it's anybody that moves 10 spots or more to the good side. Todd Gilliland from 24th to 6th. Kyle Larson started in 5th, finished in 1st. He only led 8 laps and had 15 fast laps. But that's kind of what I'm saying is somebody that starts up front, stays up front, finishes up front. Christopher Bell is a place differential, and Daniel Suarez. So 5 place differentials, 1 person who started up front and finished up front. And once again, as we look, no real Dominator with inside this race. And $900 left over. Pocono, very similar type of thing. Chase Briscoe, kind of like the Kyle Larson, started in 6th, finished in 1st. He did lead 72 laps because that could be considered a kind of a dominating day for Chase Briscoe. Ryan Blaney from 20th to 3rd, Josh Berry from 35th to 12th, Alex Bowman, another place differential, Chase Elliott 18th to 5th, place differential, Austin Cedric 19th to 10th. It's not a full place differential, but it is a top 10 finish. So realistically, this is kind of what I'm looking for, is who's going to finish in the top 10 or very close to it, maybe with some place differential. And that's kind of how I start to look at everything. And if we look back at the Pocono race from last year, very similar. No Dominators, 2 place differential. This one was much more of a finishing type of race. 9th to 1st, 14th to 7th, 18th to 11, and a 6th to 3rd. So not a whole lot of place differential. There is place differential, but like I said, anything less than 10, I don't really consider it a full place differential driver. But it's much more some finishing positions and some salary relief. Nobody over $10,000. And if we look back at the Indy race from last year, only one person over 10,000, and the Pocono race, only one person over 10,000. So kind of that middle of the pack value style type of race that kind of lets everything fit. So you just got to find that one expensive driver that's going to fit into your lineups, and then fill in the rest with some kind of the middle of the road, and then some inexpensive salary relief type drivers. All right, so if we look back, because this does not concern the type of car, the driver, any of that. This is just looking at where drivers start compared to the amount of Draftkings points that they get. So in the 2024 Indianapolis race, where did the bulk of the points come from? Well, it came from starting spots 21 through 30 for 7 of the top 15 in Draftkings points came from the starting spots of 21 through 30. Only 3 drivers were in the top 10, 2 drivers 11 through 20, and 3 drivers 31st or worse. So 10 drivers made the top 15 in Draftkings points at the Indianapolis race last year. Similarly, if we look at the 2020 race at Indy, because COVID happened and then they went to the road course for a few years, so we had kind of a break from the traditional oval style track at Indianapolis. But if we look back, it's one person starting in the top 5, 3 people starting in the top 10, or top 6 through 10, 4 in 11 through 20, 4 through 21 through 30, and 3 31st or worst. And top 15 in points. The point total that we're going to be kind of keeping in mind is we need drivers to get to about 34 or 35 points. And that'll come in handy when we put the drivers on the calculator, which we do every week now. So we'll put the drivers on the calculator and see how far up they need to finish, and if that's even a realistic possibility, or how far they're going to potentially drop. So I do like to use that tool quite often to kind of see if it's a driver that I should even consider, that I really, really think can do really well or won't do very well. All right, so Dominators, we have about 1 per race on average. And then we have about 7 of the top 15 drivers are place differential drivers. So this tells me, once again, that we are very much looking for place differential, and we're looking for an average start of about 15th. All right, let's get into our driver breakdown and our calculators and all of that fun stuff and practice information, which we did not have from Dover last year, and we almost didn't have practice information this year, but they were able to get it in today before they qualified. It was shortened, it was abbreviated, but at least we got some practice data. That is very handy to start to build our lineups. Denny Hamlin, $11,000, the most expensive driver this week on Draftkings, will be starting in 39th. During his qualifying session, he was almost a quarter second faster than the field. Well, there's a reason why he was that fast. He couldn't handle his car. So he pushed it beyond its limits and hit the wall and pretty much destroyed that car. Luckily enough, he was not injured, but his car was toast. So he will have to go to a backup car. He did not complete his qualifying lap, so he will start 39th. And if we look at his practice sessions, he was first in single lap. So the practice information right here, he was first in single lap with that car. That's now totaled. Trust me, the backup car will be probably almost as quick. So don't worry. The Toyotas are extremely fast. The Joe Gibbs cars are extremely fast. He did 20 laps at practice, and he was 6th in 10-lap consecutive average. This information here, this next line, comes from the 5 races we're comparing to. And what that is the 2024 Indianapolis race from last year, this year's Pocono, the 2024, and the 2023, because we did not race at Indy since 2020 on the oval. So we don't have a whole lot of data points to look at for that in the next-gen car, only one race. So because Pocono is slightly similar, at least in style, we can put a lot of Pocono weight behind kind of our numbers here, and it also runs about the same amount of laps. And then the Michigan 2025 race we'll put in because of the drafting. We could easily have put Loudon in, but Loudon ends up having, I think, 300 laps, so it kind of throws the lap data off a little bit. But either way, Denny Hamlin for those 5 races. So that then goes into this line here. Ken Gutner, what's up? How you doing? Good evening. How do you think turn 2 is going to affect the race? Might be more cautions. What do you think? We saw a lot of cars in qualifying and a few cars in practice hit that or scrub that wall. I don't know if it was somewhat windy today at Indianapolis. And it really depends on if that wind was blowing from turn 1 to turn 2, pushing that car a little bit. Turn 2 is always a little sketchy. Turn 4 is also a little sketchy because they're trying to get more throttle. They're trying to get a wider arc to get more long run speed down the long straightaways. That's the reason why we see issues with turn 4 and turn 2. Turn 2, I think, was more of an issue, I think, because of the wind, but I would have to go back and look at the data. But turn 2 and turn 4 are always kind of interesting spots. We didn't see that big of an issue in turn 2 in the Xfinity race today. And they also had the setups and the cars to be really, really leaned out. So they were really, really fast and they were really on edge. When you're trying to shoot for that pole position, that happens. So I don't think turn 2 will be as a big a factor as you potentially think it could be. But it really depends on which way the wind is blowing. If the wind, like I said, if the wind is blowing from turn 1 and turn 2, it will push that car out to that wall more. It's kind of the best way I kind of explain it. It's the track. They did some grinding there. I don't know if they did grinding there or not. It would be strange to do grinding on an asphalt track, though. They may have tried to scuff it or put some resin into there, but I'm not sure if they did any grinding on it. I've not heard that. You might know something I don't, so I'm not saying that it didn't happen. But I would find it odd. Usually you only see grinding at places like Bristol or in Martinsville on the concrete. They've done some grinding at Dover, but it's kind of frowned upon now because when they did some grinding on the track at Bristol, they pretty much screwed Bristol all up. And then they went and covered it up with dirt. Either way, back to Denny Hamlin. So this line here goes back to the 5 races that we're comparing to, we just talked about. Denny Hamlin has 2 wins, 4 top 5s, 4 top 10s, 4 top 20s for those 5 races, a 44.9 DraftKings average. Remember, all you're going to need to get to is above 60 to have a really good DraftKings day at these style tracks because of the limited number of laps. A 7.6 average finish and a 6.2 average running position for those 5 races. He did finish 32nd at Indy last year. So that was the one troubled track out of those 5 races for Denny. At Indy, Denny has never won this track. He has 16 total starts, no wins, 5 top 5s, 8 top 10s, 11 top 20s, and a 15th place average finish. Well, he's starting 39th with a very fast race car. Even though it's a backup car, it's still going to be very fast. All of the Toyotas were fast this weekend when they unloaded. So I expect Denny Hamlin to be perfectly fine, plenty fast. The question is, does he get wrapped up in somebody else's mess trying to work his way to the front? He'll take his time. He'll get there. There's the 160 laps. There's still plenty of laps to get there. He does now have 4 wins on the season, and he is the wins leader currently after last week. So if we get to our practice data, he was a little... So the way the practices were supposed to work, it was originally they were supposed to practice on Friday. And they were supposed to have 2 25-minute sessions per... They were supposed to split them into 2. It was supposed to be a 25-minute session. Then the other group 2 would go for 25 minutes. Group 1 would go back out for 25 minutes. So they originally allotted 2 sets of tires for each car. Because everything got abbreviated, they did 1 50-minute, and they still gave everybody 2 sets of tires. So what we're going to see with practice is a lot of drivers will come out. You can see here, Denny's a little inconsistent to start. So I'm sure what he did was he told his team, hey, my balance isn't quite right. I need either I'm pushing or I'm loose or whatever. Let's make some adjustments. So at this point, this is about where most of the drivers, kind of came in, made the adjustment. And you see a lot of people's speeds in the last 5 to 10 laps are much better than their first 5 to 10 laps. It's kind of what I'm saying, because they come in, make adjustments, put brand new tires on, and then they go back out and run again. Either way, the strange thing is, our constant for all of these is a surprise. It's John Hunter Nemechek. John Hunter Nemechek had the fastest 10-lap average. He was one of the most consistent. There was one other driver that I was on the fence, but I've used him a lot before, and I thought it was kind of interesting that John Hunter Nemechek unloaded so quickly and actually practiced pretty quickly. So John Hunter Nemechek is the black line. The white line is the average from all of the drivers. And then, of course, Denny Hamlin's the one in yellow. All right, so Denny Hamlin's got a fast car. He practiced really well. And then he screws up a qualifying, and his disadvantage will hopefully be our advantage. I'm reluctant to ever say that somebody starting shotgun in the field, last spot, is a freebie square. Because things happen. It happens all the time. Denny Hamlin starting from the rear is probably a pretty good opportunity that he is going to work his way to at least the top 15. And that's, I think he probably gets better than that. I'm not going to say Denny Hamlin's a free square, but it's pretty much a free square. And he's probably going to be, if he's not 50, he's going to be 60% owned tomorrow. It just is what it is. I'm not going to run him in every one of my lineups. I'll have him probably somewhere in the 50 to 60% range. And it's just going to be what it is. It's tough to move away from somebody that's starting in 39th, that has 4 wins on the season. It was one of the fastest cars in practice. The team was one of the fastest teams in practice, and the Toyotas were one of the fastest manufacturers in practice. Starting in 39th, I mean, all he had to do is pretty much is not screw up turn 2 like he did, and he could have easily probably drifted to the pole. It was literally, he just got on the throttle a little too soon and slid up and hit the wall and destroyed his car. If he hadn't slid up, he probably would have maybe have lost half a tenth, and he still probably would have been 2 tenths faster than Chase Briscoe and walked away with the pole. And everybody would be like, oh my God, that was a super fast lap. And we'd all be like, okay, Denny Hamlin's going to be the Dominator tomorrow. He's going to lead a ton of laps, and that's going to be that. Well, now we're talking about Denny Hamlin coming through the field, which has its risks, but I think Denny Hamlin's probably going to be okay. Do I think he's going to go win? That makes it a little tougher, but sure, it's possible. He doesn't have a win here. He wants a win here. They had a fast car at practice. Either way, let's put him on the calculator. Let's see how far. What's the furthest that he needs to finish up? All right, we're going to change the fast laps. We'll give him 4, but I don't think he leads any laps coming from last place. Well, that's 47.3, and this really I meant to change this. This should be 35, and this should probably be 55. So just remember that. I'm not going to change it for everybody, but 55 points and 35 points is kind of where we need to kind of fall. The more expensive drivers are going to need to be closer to the 55 spot, and the drivers under 6,000, we could probably target for 35 or less. Not less, but 35 points to 40 points. So him finishing in 20th probably does not cut it at $11,000. He's still going to probably need to get to a top 15. That's going to be close. So 14th or better for Denny Hamlin to be what I would consider probably a shoe-in for an optimal lineup. Because he's going to be in somewhere between 50 and 60% of the lineups, it's if he does do that and you've got him, you're with 50% of the people. If he doesn't do that, let's say he just kind of has issues and handling's not great, or gets a pit road penalty and he finishes 23rd. Well, that's 36 points. That's probably that might be enough to be in the top 15 in points, but that's definitely not going to make optimal. And that's a lot of money because he's the most expensive driver for 37 points. When, if we look back at last year, there was 355 points. Pocono, there was 340. Pocono 24 was 320 points. And then Michigan was 320 points. So roughly 320 points. Well, if Denny Hamlin goes and only gets 36 of those 320 points, the other 5 drivers are going to have to make up for 280 points. So they're going to have to get like 70 points apiece. So it just doesn't play for Denny Hamlin to be there. D Pope, what's going on? If you could give one tip on how to win the $4.20 max, oh God, what would it be? Having had much R the season, and having had, are you saying you have had good ROI or not good ROI? And I feel like I'm investing too much money and time to lose every slate. Okay, so here is the issue with the Chrome Horn. I love the Chrome Horn. Tournaments are high risk, high reward, but they're very, very risky. Let me pull up. Oh, it's going to make me log in. Hold on. Grab my phone because it's going to text me a number and blah, blah, blah. Oops. Give me 1 second. We'll break this down. Because, I mean, honestly, the odds are rough. That's all I'm saying. The odds are the roughest in the Chrome Horn for the amount of dollars. Well, I mean, the $20 entries also. Well, actually, the Chrome Horn is even harder because if you look right here, there's 30,000 entries in the Chrome Horn. So let's go and look at the rules and scoring. All right. Well, not the scoring, contest details. So 30,000 entries. What only pays out 7,000 entries. So there's going to be 23,000 people or entries that don't cut it. And out of those almost 30,000 entries, if you put the $80 in, you're going to need to have one of them finish in the top 25 to get your money back. You're talking about, what is that, 1 in 1,000 to be in the top, to be in that spot. I have started to fade away from the Chrome Horn because of that simple fact. It has gotten so many entries with so little payout. Yeah, sure. The payout to first is 20,000, but you're looking at beating 30,000 other entries, whereas the $20 150 max only has 18,000. I mean, if we look, these are the entries, and this is the amount of entries that can go on. The $5 lug nut has 10,000. It's got a third of the entries. Now, you can run, I think it's 40. No, it's a 150 max. So you could potentially have somebody that puts 150 entries in. I don't know a whole lot of people that are spending $750, because if you do that, you've got to get one of those lineups in the top 4. The ROI to try to get that back is extremely difficult. Whereas, if we start to look down, what you're looking for is for multiple entries. The Octane is not bad. It's an $8 entry, and I think it maxes at 44. That's the one it was. It maxes at 44 entries. But, I mean, if you just ran the 20, well, even ran the 10, you're only going against 1,400 other entries compared to 30,000 entries in the Chrome Horn. What they do is they get you when you're looking at this big $100,000 number. You're like, oh my god, I that would be life changing, and it would be. It is changing. I mean, if you saw my video at the very beginning, if you happen to watch it, it's the ROI, risk to reward, is so huge on these mega pots where you can easily go against a $4 entry, single entry. Yeah, it's only one entry. It's actually a little bit easier and a little bit better, because if you got 38 drivers, let's say you've got 40 drivers and you need to get to 15. And by watching this video and going through all this breakdown, I can eliminate half the field right off the bat. Now, there's probably going to be 1, maybe 2 that will sneak through, and 1 or 2 that I'll miss. But I probably will get 15 of the 20 that will be in the top 15 in points. And that's how you need to kind of look at this. So, I mean, you don't want to go spend, I mean, if you've got plenty of money, go play the $88 5 max. You're only going against 193 entries. Well, the top prize is $15,000. So, what was the entry? $88. So if you put 3 entries in, which would still be less than what you would spend on the $15 to potentially win the max, all you got to do is beat 14 out of the 193 entries. The percentages are way better. You still have a 5 max. Now, $88 is really expensive. $44 is really expensive. But these single entries, not the double ups, I just want tournaments. But like the $24 single entry Rainbow Warrior, 490 entries. And everybody only gets one entry into it. Your odds are much better to potentially get an ROI on the single entries, the 5 max entries, or going with like this $8 $1,400 total entries. But you can run 44 entries in it. I also like the $2 donut. There's only 2,300 entries in it. It's $2 to get in. I think it's a 20 max. It's a 20 max. It's half the amount of money. So the Chrome Horn, in my opinion, just is not worth it. All right, I know some people I was busy talking about that and didn't look at the chat. Let's see. They said the statistics say the average DraftKings player will lose 94% of the money all the time. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. This is for as much fun as it is for potentially making some money. It's the odds are, especially NASCAR, are probably almost as good as playing the lottery, realistically. What would you recommend I play if I don't play tournaments? I think you play smart tournaments. I still play tournaments. And I will put 3 entries into the Chrome Horn that I think are my best 3 entries. Because part of that is also research for this show, because I want to see the percentage, because that's the largest field that's out there. So I want to know what everyone else is entering, so I know percentage-wise how much people are taking of certain drivers. So that's some of the reasons why I enter some of these other ones. Like I'll enter the mini max 150. There's almost 48,000 entries in it. But at 50 cents, what is that? $75 to do the max entries? And if you either have the time or have a program that will automatically make 150 different entries for you, then it's worth a shot. Now, most likely you're going to split the pot with somebody. So that first place is $2,000. More than likely you're going to split the pot with somebody. Now you're going to split first and second with them. So you're going to get $1,500 instead of $2,000. Now a $150 entry. That's, in my opinion, 50 cents, that's worth it. $4 for 20 entries, going against almost that amount of entries, the dollars and cents don't cut it anymore. It used to not be that way. Because, if you really think about it, if they've got, here, let's pull the calculator up real quick. If you want to know a stock you should buy, and this is not investment by any means to buy anybody's stock. But if you really start to look at what is being made by DraftKings, so they are going to get 20, let's just say 30,000. 30,000 entries at $4. It's $120,000. They're going to pay out $100 on this one tournament. In this one race, DraftKings is going to make $20,000 regardless of what happens. That's insane. And you can look all the way down this thing. So you take the $20 entry times the 17,600 entries, $352,000. DraftKings is going to profit $52,000. So between these two alone, on one race, one day, DraftKings is going to make $72,000 for running a website. Yeah, they have a lot of advertising. They've got people who do programming, and they've got people who are setting the lines and doing all that. But that's $72,000 in the first 2. We haven't even gone into all of these other ones. And that doesn't even include all of the baseball, all of the basketball. And we've got NFL coming up. You think these numbers are crazy? And that doesn't even include the betting site side of things, or the pick six that DraftKings is doing, or the casino the amount of money that DraftKings is making is insane. Hopefully I don't get booted off of DraftKings for calling it out. But I mean, it's easy math. It's easy to look at. You know, if they bump me off, I'll go to FanDuel. But so yeah, I didn't mean to go off on a tangent, but you starting to ask how do you make an ROI on Chromehorn? You're better to go get a scratcher and do a scratch off it, or play your favorite 4 numbers to potentially win. You probably almost have as much luck. Now, like I said, I can typically eliminate 20 drivers every week, and that leaves me with 15 to 18 drivers to realistically pick from. So we start to get edges on a casual player who will throw in 3 or 4 entries and be like, oh, I think this person will do okay. My best friend, love him to death. He was in my wedding. I was in his wedding. We've known each other forever. He's as much of a NASCAR fan as I am, but he plays very casually. And he'll send me his lineups and go, hey, what do you think? And I'm like, dude, you're running Cody Ware. Why? This isn't Talladega or Daytona. What are you doing? He goes, well, he's starting last. He'll get some points, right? And I'm like, yeah, but he won't get enough points to pay anything. So, I mean, typically, Cody Ware, Josh Palicki, and Catherine, those are 3 right now. We're already down to 35 drivers. Those 3 drivers will not cut it. They don't have the horsepower. They don't have the speed. They don't have the engineering. They don't have the talent. They don't have any of it. The only way that they finish well is if it is an absolute cluster of a race and there's huge carnage. We're not going to see that at Indy. So, that, for the casual fan, sure, throw it in. If you're trying to play and trying to make money, the Chrome Horn is not where you do it. Lugnut is okay. The single entries are much better. All right. Hopefully that answers your question, Pope. I'm not real sure. If you, let's see, Family Man says you play for one big win that makes up for all the losing. Yeah. I've ran almost 3 years of DFS off of winning, and after I took half my winnings, I was able to run DFS for 3 years off of my Daytona Chrome Horn win. So yeah, and it says that he and I talk about this a lot. NASCAR is the hardest sport to build lineups. Yeah. So hopefully that answers your question, and that's what you're looking for. Is you're looking the edge is not necessarily in this big total price. It's fun to look at, but it's the same thing as when the Powerball goes to $1 billion and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go play. Well, your odds are the same either way. You actually have worse odds because the chance of you splitting that pot with somebody increases every time that pot gets that big because there's more and more people playing. So, yeah, if 5 people all have the same number, 5 people split that $1 billion. Now, it's a huge amount of money for anybody. So, hopefully that helps. If you have more questions, let me know. But that's kind of the breakdown that I look at. So this is why all of this information, this calculator, this optimal lineup, and why I share the optimal lineups from previous races and the top 15 in points and where they start from and where they come from and who potentially could lead laps, and is it worth even finding a Dominator or not finding a Dominator. All of those pieces come into play when we get to this spot here. I think this is the magic behind a lot of it. It's not the end-all, end-all, because stuff happens. But this helps figure out how good of a value is Denny Hamlin $11,000. Well, a few minutes ago, we went through this. He's got to get to at least 14th to pay off. And that only gets him to 55 points, which puts him, like I said, let's go back and look at those optimal lineups. 55 points. Let's look at any of the other 4 races that have the same amount of laps and potential. Well, 55 points, honestly, $11,000 probably doesn't even get him into last year's lineup. Optimal. Now, you could switch out a Kyle Larson at 57 and Denny Hamlin at 55.3, and it probably gets very, very close. And by the way, if you hear a lot of noise, I've got 4 14-year-old boys in my house right now. So bear with me. Pocono, 55 points at $11,000. Probably puts him in the optimal lineup. But maybe. Maybe not, though. So 55 points may or may not cut it. It may be closer to 57 or 58. Well, if that's the case, Hamlin's now going to have to finish probably at least 13th or 12th. That's with only 4 fast laps, because I doubt he's going to lead any laps. I mean, there's a possibility, but it's doubtful. So he's going to have to finish at least 14th or better. Can Denny Hamlin do that? Sure, he's won 4 races this year. For the 5 races that are similar in length and similar in style, he's got a 6.2 average running position. Now, he's usually starting further up, but last year he finished 32nd at Indy. So, I mean, is it a free square? No. Is it probably one of the easier, hey, I'm going to put Denny Hamlin in my lineup? Yeah. But he's also going to be 50% owned. Ryan Blaney, $10,700, starting in 24th. 32nd in practice. 19 laps of practice. 17th on 10-lap consecutive average. He does have 1 win out of the last 5 races we're comparing to. I need to remember to look to see which race he won. I think it was 2024 Pocono? Or did Denny win that? Because Pocono earlier this year was Briscoe. Indy last year was Larson. Michigan 25. Who won that? I got it right here, actually. Denny Hamlin won the Michigan 25. Larson won Indy last year. Pocono 2023 was Denny. 24 was Ryan Blaney. And Briscoe was 24 Pocono. Okay, that was right. So 1 win out of those 5. 3 top 5s, 3 top 10s, 3 top 20s. An average finish of 13.8. He finished in 3rd at the Indy race last year. 7 total starts with only 1 top 5, which was the race from last year. An 18.7 average finish. Look at his practice speeds. He barely gets better than average. He is at average or right at it. So he qualified a little bit worse than probably where he practiced, but not by much. The Fords and the Penske's, just like last week, were not very fast. They're going to need a lot of help to get their way through the field. And you got to remember, as the Penske's and Fords are making improvements and adjustments, guess what? The Toyotas and the Chevys are doing the same thing. So they have an uphill battle all day long to try to catch the Chevys and the Toyotas. And that's across the board for the Fords. When Josh Berry is your fastest Ford, or no, Chris Buescher is the fastest Ford, he's good, but we got an uphill battle with the Fords. Starting in 24th, average finish at... So the other thing here, this line here, I've kind of done some adjustments, and I keep playing with this line a little bit to kind of show what potentially needs to happen down here, especially for races where Dominators are not the end-all, end-all. So his best finish at Indy, and this is over the last 10 oval races. This doesn't include the road courses. This goes back to like 2012. And I don't even think Ryan Blaney raced all the way back then. But either way, that's how far back this stat goes. His best finish is 3rd. The last 10 races on ovals. So the trend line that I typically look at, because we have 3 road courses in that mix, I took those 3 road courses out. So this is the last 10 oval style races. Oh yeah, I took out Talladega and Atlanta because they're too wonky. The last 10 traditional oval style races, that's almost all the way back to the beginning of the year. Martinsville was the last of the 10. His best finish is 1st. Okay. Those last 10 that I'm looking at here, he has an average finish of 10.9 on ovals. So, best finish of 3rd, 10.9 over the last 10 oval races of this season. Probably means he's going to we could probably put him in for maybe a solid 10th place finish on average. Times that are worse, times that are better, but let's just go with the average. So starting in 24th, he gets himself up to 10th, and we'll give him 4 fast laps. Because typically the leader is going to have a lot of times the faster lap, or the guy that's in second that's pulling the draft, or getting the benefit of the draft will have a faster lap. But today in the Xfinity race, the fastest lap of the race came from the leader. That's 49.8 points. Well, remember we needed to get to 55 or 35. I mean, that puts him in the top 15 in points. So we can keep him if we think he's going to get to his average finish of 10th. All right. So Ryan Blaney's in the picture. How much of a good picture is it? It's okay. Victorious, I missed your videos at Atlanta. Were you busted in the big one as well? Also, would you need to consider big ones in Indy? No, I do not consider big ones at Indy. They have happened, but they typically only happen on a restart, and it's if something happens way up front. Typically, the big one does not happen. And even then, there's enough room to kind of maneuver there. I know there was a lot of multi-car wrecks last year. At Indy, how many cars finished on the lead lap at Indy last year? 24 cars finished on the lead lap at Indy last year. And it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cars did not finish the race. Denny Hamlin was one of the ones that was caught up in a wreck, but he did end up finishing the race last year. Now, they did go to overtime, so they had 167 laps. I need to go back and rewatch. I did not have time because I was watching the Xfinity race. You're welcome, Pope. Whatever I can do to kind of help out, I'm always here for it. I'll give you my honest opinion, and if it's an opinion statement, I typically try to state that it's an opinion statement. It's a fact statement. It's stuff that I can actually back up with black and white numbers. So, Byron, Allmendinger, Burton, then Johnson, Logano, Barry, Truex, then a 5-car wreck. I think at least 12 cars finished outside the lead lap. Yes, that is the case. Like I just said, 24 cars finished on the lead lap, which actually is a decent amount finishing on the lead lap. And Nemechek was one of them. Let's see. So McLeod, he probably blew up. Or I don't know what happened to McLeod. He only finished 15 laps. William Byron made it to lap 73. AJ 74. Harrison Burton finished 74 laps. Josh Berry only made it 104 laps. Logano made it to 109 laps. Jimmy Johnson made it 110. And then pretty much everybody else made it to the distance. And my guess by looking at this is Denny Hamlin, Alex Bowman, Daniel Hemrick, and John Hunter Nemechek all ended up in a wreck together. Because what it sounds like is they were the wreck that caused the overtime, or that was a wreck right at overtime. So that I'm just looking at the numbers, and that's probably the way it happened. A lot of times at Indy, it's 2, maybe 3 cars. We don't ever have big ones. Nemechek, Hemrick, Briscoe, Hamlin, Bowman caused the red flag. Yep. Who was your first 30-lap Dominator? Briscoe, maybe? Yes. Briscoe probably will be my first 30-lap Dominator because it's Briscoe and who is starting outside pole? Outside pole is Bubba Wallace. Briscoe probably will get the jump on him. Bubba had a quick car in practice, though. So I think Bubba actually had a faster car in practice than Briscoe did. And in third, Eric Jones. Eric Jones was really fast in practice. But yeah, I would give the edge to Briscoe because he'll get to choose the lane choice and he will get to choose in the restart zone. So yeah, the edge will be Briscoe to lead the first 30 lap segment. And the segments, I forgot to look, are 50, 100, and 160. Can they make it on fuel? 50, 250, 150. They would be really close on fuel, I think. I don't see how far they can run on fuel in this information. I'd have to go back and look. It's close. 50 laps at a 2.5 mile race is close on fuel. If they have to stop and it's a yellow, if they have to make a pit stop and it's under yellow, Briscoe's team's been okay at pit stops. I definitely made the call last week of Chase Elliott's crew would screw him, but he was able to drive back up to the front. But they definitely cost him a couple of positions at times. So I'm not concerned about a big one or a multi-car accident. That is not typical for Pocono. That's not typical for Indy. That's just, it happens, sure. Because when you have a restart and the accordion effect happens, you can wreck 10 cars on the first lap of the race. That's not the average. So, like, that is the average, not on a restart, but that is the average at Daytona, Talladega, Atlanta, that if somebody wrecks, it typically triggers the big one. I mean, heck, at Talladega, that earlier this year, we didn't have the big one. It happens. You build lineups expecting it to happen, though, because the average is about 80% that the big one will happen. Sometimes it doesn't happen, though. But so Ryan Blaney, starting in 24th, is going to need to get to top 7 to kind of be right on the cusp of being in that optimal lineup. He really, honestly, so far does not have 7th plate speed in practice. Did not show 7th plate speed in qualifying, that's for sure. And his best finish at Indy is 3rd. And his average finish is 18.7. So that's a tough uphill climb for Ryan Blaney. I'm going to put him on the back end of, the 20 drivers I may look at putting in. A lot of people are going to put him in because he's starting 24th. But the Penske cars did not unload very fast. Their balance does not seem to be really that great, especially at the beginning of the run. Now, it looks like they came in and made adjustments and it got a little bit better, but it was still only average speed. I mean, if you're going against John Hunter Nemechek, now, John Hunter messed his qualifying up, so he's going to start further back, but a lot of the Toyotas had this type of speed. Ryan Blaney's never going to catch him if that's the case. He's never going to be able to pass him if that's the case. So, yeah, I mean, to go from 24th to 7, and trying to pass at Indy with this aero blocking car is difficult. So, the Ryan Blaney starting in 24th is definitely not a shoe-in for me, especially at 10,700. He's going to have to finish in 7th or better. Is it possible? Absolutely. He's finished 3rd at Indy before. But he's only finished twice in the top 10 out of the 7 starts. So, and if we look at the 5 races that we're comparing to, Indy, Pocono, and Michigan's, he's got a 13.8 average finish. So all indications are he's not making it to 7th without some help or a little bit of luck. And their pit crew has been suspect. So he's not going to get a whole lot of help on pit road. Now, if he had William Byron's or Kyle Larson's pit crew that could get him off pit road fast, yeah, maybe. Christopher Bell's pit crew. But they're not. They're not the fastest pit crew out there. He's not going to get a whole lot of help on pit road either. So Kyle Larson, 10,500, starting in 13th. I mean, the reason Kyle Larson won the Indy race last year was because that late race caution. Now, he was running in the top 5 all day. But he only led, what, 7, 8 laps? So, 10,500 starting in 13th. He was decent in practice. He was 7th in single lap, 10th in 10 lap consecutive average. He does have the one win at Indy. And if we look at the other tracks, he's finished in the top 20 every race. 2 top 10s, 3 top 20s, a 9.2 average finish. 7 races at Indy, he's got a 16.2 average finish. So you can say the same thing about him and Ryan Blaney, and Blaney's got more place differential potential. I said, that's tough. Kyle Larson's pit crew is much better. And if we look at his practice speeds, across the board, he was probably actually a little better than John Hunter Nemechek. John Hunter Nemechek, after getting the adjustments made, did come out and was faster. So, Kyle Larson, for the most part, other than one lap, was better than average. So, now he is starting better than average. He's starting in 13th. So, best finish at Indy is first. Best finish in the last 10 oval-style tracks is first. The last 10 average oval non-super speedways at 10.9. Well, if we're starting in 13th and we get to the average of, let's say, 10, well, it's not going to cut it. That's 39.2. We'll leave him at 5 fast laps. Now, starting in 13th, he has a little bit better chance of leading laps. We're going to leave that alone. How far up does he have to finish? 5th, probably doesn't quite cut it. 3rd, that gets it close. Remember, it's 55 and 35. 55 and 35. So he's going to need to finish top 3 at best. And if he finishes top 3, that means he probably ended up leading a few laps. So we'll give him 5. That's right on the cusp. So, Kyle Larson, top 3. Okay. So what happens if he finishes where he kind of been finishing lately? 7th, 46.5. Doesn't quite cut it. It puts him in the top 15 or top 20 of guys that you might take. So, I'm not putting an X on him by any means. So, I would put Denny Hamlin right now first on my list, Kyle Larson second, and Ryan Blaney third. Now, they're gonna fall further back than that. William Byron, 10,200, starting in 6th. His practice speeds were 21st in single lap. 2nd in 10 lap, though. His long run speed was one of the best. And we'll see that once we look at the chart, because it actually is quite impressive. He was the other driver that I was thinking about using as the constant. And out of the 5 racers we're comparing to, this is the trouble spot. He's got only 1 top 5 and 10, 2 top 20s for the 5 races, 22.2 average finish. He finished 38th in this race last year. 4 total starts at Indy with a 22nd place average finish. Not great stats for William Byron at Indy. Now, I think he's only raced there 4 times, and 3 of those were in the last gen car, and he was also much younger. So he's greatly improved. I will give him all that. But this is his practice speeds. I mean, when you want to talk about a really well-balanced car, this line is almost flat. I mean, it's at like 50.3 to 50.7. I mean, he's within 4/10 of his lap speed over the course of 17 laps. That's really, really good lap speed. I really like this line right here for William Byron. Now, William Byron has had a tendency to screw himself up this year, but he's also had a tendency to lead a ton of laps. The Hendrick cars have had, when they're on, and that line right there, that car is on. It's on rails. 10,200, starting in 6. So at this point, he's going to need to lead laps to pay off. So we'll leave him in 2nd. We won't even give him in the first place. But let's say he has 20 fast laps and he leads 60 laps. So that's 65. He doesn't need all that. especially since we only need to get to 55. So we can back him down to 30, not 300, 30, and 15. That's still 60 points. Only got to get to 55. So we can go probably 10 and 20? 55.5. So I'm telling you, this speed chart right here is really, really good. I really like it. I will be putting William Byron all the way up to second. Now, I'm going to lose track here shortly because we'll end up having too many people. But as right now, it would be Denny Hamlin first, Byron in second, Kyle Larson in third, and Ryan Blaney fourth. And as you can see, as I begin to go through these, we're going to find drivers that we just go, nope, there's no way they can ever get to it. They're not good enough. All those things. Like Chase Elliott is probably going to go to the at least first or second. $10,000 starting in 30th. Ton of place differential. Almost as much place differential as Denny Hamlin, with just as good of an average finish for the 5 races we're comparing to. He finished 10th in this race last year. He's never finished in the top 5, though, but has 2 top 10s out of 7 starts at Indy and a 16.5. Well, let's look at his practice speeds. They're not quite as good as William Byron's, but they're not bad. This kind of reminds me of what Chase Elliott was kind of doing at the beginning of the year, which means he's probably going to finish like 7th, maybe 6th, maybe 8th. You know, top 10, maybe not top 5. But starting in 30th, we've got a ton of place differential to gain here. Now, he's going to have the same issues as Denny Hamlin. So, am I going to put him ahead of Denny Hamlin? No, probably not. Especially if I give him 8th place. He's probably not going to lead a whole lot of laps, but we're only going to give him 5 fast laps. That's 60.25 if he gets to his normal average. Because his average 10th place, his last 10 races on normal ovals is 10.5. Best finish is second, because he finished first in Atlanta. That was his win for this year. His best Indy finish is 9th. So let's say he ties his best finish at Indy at 9th. It's 58.25. It's not quite the Denny Hamlin numbers, but that's the second best numbers we've seen. Well, and as you can see very quickly, Ryan Blaney, of the drivers that are $10,000 or more, Ryan Blaney's the last on my list. Chase Elliott's second. So that's how I kind of begin to build all of my lineups and go, all right, out of the $10,000 guys and above, who are my top 2 or 3? All right, those are probably going to be the ones I probably want to stay with more so. Now, am I going to be a complete, absolute, I'm not going to touch Ryan Blaney? No, that would be really dumb. Will I run him in 10 to 15% of my lineups? Yeah. Will I run Denny Hamlin in probably 40 or 50% of my lineups? Yeah. Am I going to run Chase Elliott in probably 30 to 40%? Yeah. So that's kind of how the builds will probably end up happening. I've not started to build yet because I was doing Xfinity stuff and watching Xfinity race, which was a great race, by the way. Got a little chaotic there towards the end, but the rain kind of caused everybody to lose their minds a little bit. We could see that tomorrow too. I mean, but still, people losing their minds. Only 2 cars got knocked out of the race. Well, in 2 different instances, 3 total cars got knocked out of the race. Tyler Reddick, 9,700, starting in 4th. The starting spot may be a little far up for Tyler Reddick, to be perfectly honest. He did finish second in this race last year, and over the 5 races we're comparing to, 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s, 4 top 20s, and 11th place average finish. But at Indy, 2 total starts, both of them, so it was probably a 7th and a 2nd, so 5th or 8th and 2nd. So he's got a 5th place average finish for those 2 starts. Practice speeds were, he got continually better. He made the tire change here and came out much faster and then fell off. And it's always hard to say at this little spike here if he had a bad corner or if he ran into some traffic or whatever. But he wasn't as fast as John Hunter Nemechek. He was not as fast as William Byron, but he was pretty good. But starting in 4th, and his best finish is 2nd, but over the last 10 non-super speedway ovals, he's got an average finish of 16.6. He has not had a great year like he had last year. So starting in 4th, I mean, we'll give him his average finish at Indy in 5th. And he has not led a whole lot of laps this year, so I'm going to take that away from him. But we'll give him 7 fast laps. I think that's being generous. I mean, that's 41.15. Even if he goes and finishes in 2nd where he finished last year, we'll be generous. We'll give him 10 laps led and 7 fast laps. That's still only 49.65. Well, at this point, he definitely needs to get to 55, maybe 53. We're under the $10,000 threshold, but still, it's going to probably need to be close to 55 at that price tag. So Tyler Reddick at this point has now fallen below a Ryan Blaney for me on people that I'm interested in. Now, the Toyotas were extremely fast. Bubba Wallace was extremely fast. The Toyotas across the board were fast. I mean, the Legacy crew was fast. The 2311 were fast. And absolutely the Joe Gibbs cars were fast. So all the Toyotas have been extremely fast. But Tyler is still going to have to go get around Bubba Wallace and Briscoe to get the lead. And there's just something going on at 2311. I know that they don't have a charter. They're in a lawsuit. There's lots of distractions that are going on. Tyler Reddick at this point is a free agent. By all means, because his contract says that if the team he drives for doesn't have a charter, he's a free agent. So he effectively is a free agent this year. Somebody could offer him a ride tomorrow. They're not going to. He's not going to leave because he would lose his points and he would lose his playoff eligibility. So he's not going to leave 2311 this year, but he could easily get scooped up by, I don't even know who would take him, a colleague, but he's not going to go to colleague over 2311. There's not a whole lot of teams that'll take Tyler Reddick, but he is essentially a free agent at this point. So, but either way, I think at best he finishes 2nd. I think honestly right now Chase Briscoe might be the odds-on favorite to win this thing tomorrow. He's determined. He's from the area. In his interviews today, you could just tell that he had a look in his eye that he wanted to do something. It's going to be risky, starting from the pole, though. Hulk Hogan, NWO. Yeah, sad week. We lost a lot of great stars this week. But that happens. We lost Dale Earnhardt Jr. or Dale Earnhardt at 1.2. And guess what? The sun's going to come up tomorrow, and we'll get up and we'll watch racing, and we'll cut the grass, and we'll live our lives. So it was great to watch Hulk Hogan, and it was great to listen to Ozzy, and it was great. You know, all of our stars, they end up dying at some point, and so will we. Christopher Bell, 9,500, starting in 16th. Practice was 28th and 11th. He was kind of one of the slower Toyotas of the batch. Starting in 16th, of the 5 races we're comparing to, an 11th place average finish. He finished 4th in this race last year. And out of 2 starts, he's got an 8th place average finish. Well, if we look at his practice speeds, even with I don't know, that's the problem, is I don't know in all of this information when all these drivers may have come in and made a tire change. And they didn't have to. They could have just stayed out and run. So some of these lap times could have been just on one tire and they just never made any adjustments. My guess is they probably did. But, you know, unless you've got an eye on every car for every lap of practice, which we don't, we just have to go off of speeds and take the speeds that were there. Christopher Bell, so he, best Indy finish of 4th. His best finish of non-super speedway ovals over the last 10 so far this year is 4th, with an average finish of 9.3. All right, so we'll kind of give him somewhere, let's say, a 7th place finish, starting in 16th. So what does that give us? 16th to 7th, and we'll give him 7 fast laps, starting 16th. Not necessarily a shoe-in for leading. So 49.15. At 9,500, we're still probably at least close to that 55 mark. So he's going to need to do a little bit better than that. He's going to need to get to 4th. Yeah, 4th would do it with 7 fast laps. Possible. I mean, Battalia's best Indy finish. He's only raced there twice. So I don't mind the Christopher Bell play. I kind of will put him middle of the pack, kind of probably towards the... I'll probably put him like 15-20% of my ownership. It's kind of where I'll land. All right, our pole sitter, Chase Briscoe. He does have an Xfinity win here. It was during the COVID era. He was super excited because he's got the pole and his family's going to be there, and they're from Indianapolis, and he really wants to win in front of his hometown and his family and all those things, and he's starting from the pole. His practice speeds were about as bad as Christopher Bell's, to be honest. 9,300. Now, he qualified first. Probably would have been second if Denny had not wrecked, but he does get the pole because Denny did wreck. And if we look at the 5 racers we're comparing to, he does have 1 win. That win was at Pocono, which is the most similar track to Indy, and he led 72 of the 160 laps. A lot of things are kind of lining up towards Briscoe. So it's an opinion piece on my part with a little bit of data to say that I honestly think Chase Briscoe could potentially win tomorrow and potentially lead quite a few laps. Not for sure, because his practice speeds were about where Ryan Blaney's were, maybe even a little bit worse at times. So that's a little bit worrying for me, but clean air is king, especially with this car. So if he can jump out to a lead, I think he'll hold from what Family Man and I were talking about earlier. Who do I think is going to lead the first 30 laps? And I think Briscoe probably will have that advantage. Now, because of the aero issues, I think he can hold on to it till at least the first pit stop or first caution. Then from there, who knows? But Briscoe's been pretty consistent over the last few weeks about starting up front and staying up front at this point. So first, how many laps will Chase Briscoe need to lead? Well, 10's not going to cut it. So if we think he's going to get, as Family Man said, the first 30, which will probably give him 10 fast laps, well, that's 57 points. So he could lead the first 30, fall back a little bit, run somewhere in the top 10, and work his way back up to first again towards the end of the thing, and still get 57 points. The problem is if he slips at all, and he falls to 5th, 47 points, and that takes him out of that picture. It's a very risky play. And he won't be he'll be more owned than what he has been from the pole, because he now does have that win, and he does have a pretty good consistent record over the last, 4 or 5 races of finishing closer to the front. I think he almost won last week at Dover, didn't he? He was battling with Denny Hamlin. I think he finished second. Cup trend. Dover. Briscoe finished second. Yeah. Led 13 laps, 11 fast laps, and he got 50.2 points. So, yeah. I was right. So, he's consistently finishing closer to the front. His last 10 non-super speedway oval races, he's got 11.8. So, he's definitely one of the better. He's up there very close to being one of the better drivers on non-super speedway ovals. So, I will have some Briscoe. I think he will be slightly sneaky, but not as sneaky as I would want. He'll probably be 18 to 20% owned, my guess. Chris Buescher, I think our fastest Ford in the field, starting in 7th. 17th in a single lap, did not do a 10-lap consecutive run. And over the last 5 races we're comparing to, he's got an 11.4 average finish. And out of his 6 total starts at Indy, he's never finished in the top 5 and only once in the top 10 with a 19.3 average finish. Fords are struggling a little bit, and Chris Buescher's one of your fastest Fords. And as you can see, he barely gets under the average line, and he's qualified way better than average. So I honestly think this is a tough uphill climb for Chris Buescher starting in 7th. I think at best he finishes in 7th. His best finish at Indy is at 9th, and his last 10 non-super speedway ovals is a 13.3, and his second place is his best. So even if we give him 7th, starting in 7th, and has 8 fast laps, it's 40.6 points. Not going to cut it. How far up will Chris Buescher need to get to? He's going to need to finish in first. And if he does that, he'll end up leading some laps, which will help. So even if he finishes in second, let's say he goes and leads 15 laps. 54.35. At $9,000, that probably might cut it. So, I mean, but that's asking a whole lot. His best finish at Indy is 9th. And out of the 5 races we're comparing to, which is mostly Indy and Pocono, he's got an 11.4 average finish. That's a tough hill to climb. Not saying he's an out for me. He'll probably be a little bit sneaky, but it's also a little bit on the riskier side. Joey Logano, 8,800, starting in 15th. He was 22nd in single lap practice, 8th in 10-lap consecutive practice. And out of the 5 races we're comparing to, he's got 1 top 5, 1 top 10, 2 top 20s, a 22.4 average finish with a 17.6 average running position. So he struggled towards the end of some of these races. He finished 34th here at Indy last year. He does not have a win at Indy, but out of his 13 total starts, 4 top 5s and 8 top 10s. So well over half the time he's finishing in the top 10. So we'll have to remember that. His practice speeds actually for the Fords he was at least slightly better than average for, I would say, most of his practice. And he's starting just slightly better than average. Average being 19th. We have 38 drivers, which I think we have 39. But either way, you get the idea. So he qualified a little bit better than average. He kind of practiced a little bit better than average. But let's put him on the calculator and see how everything pans out. So 15th. And the last 10 non-super speedway ovals, he's got a 12.8 average finish, 1 win, and his best finish at Indy is 2nd. So we'll give him a 7th place finish and see where that puts him. Probably not going to lead a whole lot of laps, and probably come down to, let's give him the old 7 on the fast laps. 48.15. That gets close. He's going to need to probably finish top 5 with those other stats to kind of get into play. And 52.15 would be close at $8,800. Would want to see closer to that 54 or 55. So if he leads 10, or if he has 10 fast laps, it's right on that edge. So he's going to need to finish at least 5th or better. And that would potentially put him there. 12.8 average finish over the last 10 ovals. The Fords aren't super fast here. His speed on practice, I don't think is top 5 speed. I think it's top 15, maybe top 20, but it's definitely not top 5. So I'm more apt to probably run a Ryan Blaney over a Joey Logano. There's at least 9 spots of place differential between the two. So right now, Ryan Blaney would be probably my best Ford driver at this point. Ty Gibbs, 8,600, starting in 5th. Remember, the Toyotas and the Gibbs were extremely fast in practice. He was 4th in single lap, 7th in 10-lap consecutive average out of the 4 starts out of the 5, so he did not race the 2023 Pocono race. He's got a 14.4 average finish and a 14th place average running position. He's got 1 start here at Indy, and he finished in 23rd. And his practice speeds actually were kind of consistent, but not as good as Byron's. Byron, what did we say Byron was starting? Byron is starting in 6th, and Ty Gibbs is starting in 5th. So we got kind of a heads up here, and I would give the edge to Byron over Gibbs. That's kind of how I look at it. Now, Gibbs will get the advantage because he's 8,600, and Byron, I think, was 10,200 or something along those lines. But I don't think it's a complete out fade, because Ty Gibbs does have an Xfinity win here at Indy and on the oval. When did that happen? 21? I can't remember. I'm not going to go look. But he does have a win on the oval in Xfinity. Now I'm really curious. Hot take: Ty Gibbs finishes top 3 tomorrow. I think so. I could easily be persuaded, and it's not really a hard persuasion for that. Ty Gibbs. And if we look at his Xfinity 20, see, he had 7 wins, and let's see, let's just go to Indianapolis. That was a Grand Prix in 21, so that won't be it. Yeah, I can just share this over here. Kind of see what I'm looking at here. 2022, Indy was on the Grand Prix. So that's not that year. 2024. No, maybe it's just on the Grand Prix side of things that he got that win. Finished 2nd in 22. In 21, he finished 19th. What did I say? I don't think that was right. 8th. Maybe he has not won an Indy. I thought he had won an Indy. Nope, I don't think he has won an Indy. Not unless it was last year. Nope, Mexico City. 24. Yeah, he's not won in Indianapolis. Sorry, I was mistaken. That's why I always like to go look. And I don't 100% know. But yeah, I could easily be persuaded that Ty Gibbs could get the win. The Toyotas are fast. He's been running. He's got a 15.3 average finish over the last 10 races on non-super speedway ovals. And his best Indy finish is 23rd. So, I mean, all signs are that it's not super great. I could see how I could be persuaded because he's due for a win or a really good finish. But I could also make the argument that, yeah, I just think there are other better options. So I'm not a fade on Ty Gibbs. I'm not going to be super heavy on Ty Gibbs. It'll probably be 15%. And I mean, he should be semi. Oh yeah, I think he probably will be on the high end 12 or 13%, on the lower end 7%. Just because he's starting a little bit too far up, and there's just no real data other than a gut check play to say that he's going to finish any better than where he starts. But let's say he finished 2nd. And let's say he leads 10 laps and has 12 fast laps. Well, that's 52.9. That probably at 8,600 is probably enough to be in the optimal. So, yeah, tournament perspective, that is not a cash play by any means. So, if Pope, you're still here and still listening, your safest plays in DFS are your cash tournaments, which are your double ups and your 50%, where if you finish in the top 50, you win double your money back. where your double up is typically a head-to-head against half the field. All you got to do is finish in the top 50%, and you'll make double your money. That's the most you can make. But you're typically playing it safe. You're playing the Denny Hamlin. You're playing the John Hunter Nemechek. You're playing the Chase Elliott. You're playing a Larson and a Byron. Now remember, you still have to fall in the $50,000 frame, but you're making safe plays. Ty Gibbs is not a safe play. It is a gut check play. It is a play that you don't think is going to be owned by a whole lot of other people. So not a cash play, tournament play, absolutely for Ty Gibbs. Brad Keselowski, 8,400. So, Pope, if you're still here and still listening, if you're looking for the safer play cash tournaments. You're not going to win $10,000, not unless you're paying $5,000 to get in. But I'm a gambler, but I'm not even that much of a gambler. All right, Brad, if we don't get going on this, we'll never finish. Brad Keselowski, $8,400, starting in 14th. His practice speeds, look at there. This was our fastest Ford guy, but he didn't do a whole lot of laps. Third in single lap, 12 total laps of practice, 9th in 10 lap consecutive average. Well, at least he did a 10 lap run. If we look at his speed, it was better than average on most of it, so better than Joey Logano, who was starting one spot worse. So I would give the edge to Brad Keselowski. Now, the edge fades very quickly when we look at his last 10 non-super speedway ovals at a 19.8 and a 5th place best finish out of those 10 races. Now, he has won at Indy before. Don't ask me when. It's been a while. His 12 total starts, he's got a 13.8 average finish, and the 5 races we're comparing to a 12.6. So all in all, probably looking somewhere around 10th, 11th, or 12th as a finish. Now, starting 14th, that's not going to cut it. I can just do the math now. In my head. I'm that smart. No, I'm just kidding. Let's say he gets to 10th. Not going to leave any laps, and we'll give him 5 fast laps. 41.25. Not going to quite cut it. How far up will Brad Keselowski need to finish? At least in 5th at 8,400. And have probably 7 or 8 fast laps. So, at least a 5th place finish for Brad Keselowski starting in 14th. That changes things a little bit. Sorry. There's Joey that's starting in 15th. 50.2. So he's going to probably need to finish in 4th. So 4th place or better for Brad Keselowski. He's won here before. He's got a 12th place average finish. I don't love it. I would probably put him on the very low end of ownership, maybe 5%. So for me, it's like 2 lineups. So probably not going to run a whole lot of Brad Keselowski. Just that, I don't love the Fords here. Now, RFK as a team has been running very, very well on the normal ovals, non-super speedway. Non-super speedway, they've actually run pretty well, as long as they're not caught up in the big one. Ross Chastain, $8,300, starting in 33rd. Whoa, Ross, what did you do? He sucks in practice, always has. 30th in single lap. If all of a sudden you see Ross Chastain have a really fast practice session, you know there's something wrong, because he is consistently, the car's off balance, he's slow, and then he qualifies really bad, and then he still ends up finishing 10th or better. So 8,300 starting in 33rd. So, I mean, Ross is right there for me with Chase Elliott. His practice speeds were 30th and 18th, and when you look at the chart, it's normal, typical Ross Chastain looking practice sheet. I have no clue what they do to that car to make it better in race trim, other than maybe it's Ross Chastain. But 19.2 average finish for the 5 races we're comparing to, which is not super great. He finished 15th in this race last year. 4 total starts with a 20th place average finish. The data is not super great for Indy. You kind of have to more look at the Pocono. But like I said, I mean, his practice speeds are almost always like this. In fact, Trackhouse is almost always like this. They're just super. And what this shows to me is the car is not balanced very well. They're fighting either loose or they're fighting tight, which then comes into play with the balance. So just a lot of those things are kind of happening, but they always do this, and then they always seem to be finishing fairly well. So if we look at the last, I mean, here it is, the last 10 non-super speedway ovals, an 11.7 average finish. And in that 10, he's got a first place finish, his best place finish at Indy's 15th. So we'll kind of cut the baby in half here, and we'll just say 13th place finish. Starting in 33rd, 13th place finish, and 5 fast laps. 52.25, definitely probably gets him real close. I'll definitely have him in some lineups, but he's not going to be sneaky. So take that for what it is. He's going to be right there with Chase Elliott and Denny Hamlin on pretty high ownership. He's not going to be as high as Denny, but he's going to be probably in the top 10 of ownership. So it's not a freebie square. It's not very sneaky, but it's kind of a smart play, especially if you're playing in cash tournaments. Kyle Busch, $8,100. Spinny, my new nickname for Kyle Busch. I think that should be more of the bet this week. Is will Kyle Busch spin tomorrow? Indy's one of his. He seems to be. I don't know. Seems to be better at Indy for not spinning, but he's not ever really that fast. $8,100. Starting in 12th, he was 18th in single lap. Did not do a 10-lap consecutive average for the 5 racers we're comparing to. He's got a whopping 21.2 average finish, and he finished 25th in this race last year. Now, typical Kyle Busch, he used to be really good. So 17 total starts, 12 of them he's finished in the top 10 with 2 wins. 18.5 average finish. Look at his practice speeds. They were good. He had a couple really good laps and then kind of just fell back to average and then got worse. So we'll put him kind of right at average. He had a little bit of a fast lap in there, but not very consistent. He was consistently average. And starting in 12th, he's starting a little bit better than average. So 14.8 average finish for the last 10 non-super speedway ovals. He's got a best of an 8th. So even if we give him his best so far out of the last 10 non-super speedway ovals, starting in 12th, and he makes it all the way up to 8th, because you want to talk about a team that screws somebody over on pit road, or he screws himself over on pit road, is Kyle Busch. He's not going to have that many fast laps. We'll give him 4 just to be generous. It's 41.8. Kyle Busch is going to be one of the drivers I just take and I don't put in any of my lineups. So he's one of the probably 20 drivers that I don't have a whole lot of interest in. It might fit in one, but for the most part, Kyle Busch is not going to be one of the drivers I'd put into those lineups. Just there's no data to help support him having. I mean, how far up would Kyle Busch need to finish? Probably 3rd, and have 8 fast laps. 53.6 would probably get him there. Pope, are you still in the chat? I don't know. He hasn't said anything since that. We currently have 16 viewers, so he could be one of the 16. So yeah, Kyle Busch, I don't have a whole lot of interest in. Alex Bowman, next in line here at $8,000. Starting in 21st, he was 23rd in practice with no 10-lap consecutive average. And for the 5 racers we're comparing to, one top 10, a 21st place average finish. He finished 31st in this race last year. And out of his 6 total starts, he's never finished in the top 20 at Indy with a 28.8 average finish. And out of all the Hendrick cars, his practice speeds did not look good. Not very well balanced. Not good. So even starting in 21st, I mean, you've got some place differential here. But if you even look at the last 10 non-super speedway ovals for Alex Bowman, he has an average finish of 25.5. And his best finish at Indy's 21st. I honestly just don't. He's going to need to have just a lucky day. And it would be a complete gut check for him to finish in the top 10. And even that with 10 fast laps puts him probably on the outside cusp of making it in. So there's two drivers that I'm probably not going to have a whole lot of interest in right out of the gate. Kyle Busch, Alex Bowman. That was more than that, but I've kind of mentioned him. I'm not super high on Brett Keselowski. Probably not super high on Chris Buescher. I could be okay with some Ryan Blaney. Probably not going to have a whole lot of Joey Logano. Just the Fords don't really match up, and Alex Bowman's stats here are not good. Carson Chaos Hocevar, $7,900, starting in 8th. He was 9th in single lap practice. Did not do a 10-lap consecutive average because he was all over the place in the beginning, which is kind of consistent with a kind of a rookie driver who is extremely fast and really heavy on the throttle. He did not have a good Pocono at all, but he did have a hellacious save at Pocono. But out of the 3 races, so Indy, did he race? Yeah, he raced Indy last year. The Pocono 25 race and the Michigan 2025, he had an average finish of 19th with an average running position of 14.4. He did finish Indy last year in the 12th place, but starting in 8th. Now, like I said, he was all over the place at the beginning. Now, once they kind of got that car dialed in and adjusted where he needed it, he fired off pretty quick. He kind of slowed up to about average, but he did end up having some good speed. Carson, it's going to be one of those. It's a real coin flip on how well you think he's going to do. I could be persuaded into having him. I could be persuaded easily into not having him. There was somebody else that we were talking about that earlier. Ty Gibbs. I kind of put Carson right there with Ty Gibbs. The chances are Ty Gibbs is going to finish better than Carson Hocevar, and they're both starting top 10. But Carson's one of those that all of a sudden he'll randomly go and finish second. Well, even in second, he's going to need to lead some laps because 49.3. I don't know. It's 7,900. Might it'll be top 15, yes, but more than likely, this is what we're going to get out of Carson. 17th, to be perfectly honest, and it probably could be more closer to like 30. I mean, his last 10 non-super speedway finishes is a 23.0. I don't think I have a whole lot of interest in Chaos this week. The end of practice was okay for him, but I mean, out of the Spire cars, I don't know. Michael McDowell might finish better. No, I'm going to take Carson Hocevar over Michael McDowell, and I'll take him over Justin Haley. So I'm probably a no on Carson Hocevar. He could be sneakily, dangerously kind of wacky. I don't know. I'd rather take Ty Gibbs than Carson Hocevar. Bubba Wallace next in line here, $7,700. Starting outside pole. He finished in 5th in this race last year. Out of the 4 total starts, he's got 3 times in the top 10, but you're starting outside pole. A lot of risk for a very tough reward. And his practice speeds, I mean, he was 14th. He did not do a 10-lap consecutive run because he definitely had some issues about lap 7, then came back and still ended up having issues, and then goes and qualifies outside pole. I mean, kind of like with Tyler Reddick, I just have a real question mark with 2311 right now. I just don't have a whole lot of trust. And starting in second, that trust fades even more. Because his best finish on non-super speedway ovals is 3rd. And he's got a 19.7 average finish pretty much for this year on non-super speedway ovals. Does have the 3rd last year here at Indy. But as Victorious was saying it was kind of a chaotic end to the race last year. I said even Kyle Larson did not lead a whole lot of laps, and I think got a little bit lucky. So, for him to get to, at this point, we're probably 48, 49 points at $7,700. He's going to need to win. He's going to need to lead 20 laps, 10 fast laps. Would put in there. He doesn't even really need to lead that many laps. He could lead 5 laps. 10 fast laps. Would probably put him there. But he's going to have to win. And honestly, I just don't know if I trust Bubba Wallace to go win at Indy. Anything's possible, but yeah, I don't really like it. Josh Berry, $7,500, starting in 17th. Once again, at least Josh has got a little bit of wiggle room, starting in 17th. It's not going to take a whole lot at $7,500 to get him up there. It's still going to take a top 10. They were 12th and 21st in practice. 19.8 average finish for the 4 races we're comparing to for him. He missed the 23 Pocono race because he wasn't racing Cup at that point. But he did finish 35th in this race last year. Stewart-Haas, I get it. But he had 2 laps better than average, maybe 3. And he's starting a little bit better than average. And his average finishes for the last 10 non-super speedway ovals, which includes a win. No, this does not include the win at Vegas. That was like 12 or 13 non-super speedway ovals ago. This goes all the way back to Martinsville. He's got a 21.3 with a 6th place best finish. So even starting in 17th, if we can get him up to his best finish on non-super speedway ovals, which is 6, we'll leave him at 5 fast laps. It's 51.25. That potentially plays, but I honestly, realistically think that it's going to be, we could kind of split the baby here. If we go 6, 21, 7, 14 is probably more realistic of a good day for Josh Berry. Well, that's 34.25. That doesn't even really encompass the 35 points he's going to need to be in the top 15. So I am probably a fade on Josh Berry. Ryan Preece, $7,300. Starting 23rd, 31st in single lap, 12th and 10 lap consecutive average. So he had a decently okay long run speed car. 20.8 average finish for the 5 racers we're comparing to. 3 total starts at Indy with a 27.3. I was with really crappy teams at those races. They just didn't have horsepower. Stewart-Haas had horsepower, but didn't have engineering, really. But if you look at his practice speeds, they're average to slightly better than average. So, and he's starting worse than average. So, I think there's a potential he could get up there. He's got a 16.2 non-super speedway oval average with a best of 7th. So starting in 23rd, let's take him all the way up to his best finish on non-super speedway ovals and see where we're at. We'll start there. And we'll give him 2 fast laps. 53.9. If he could make it all the way up to 7th, that puts it there. Or if we cut the baby in half here and cut the averages, 17, 16, pretty much 8 would be 12. So let's give him 12. We do that, and he gets the average, 42.9. That's close. So I will have some ownership in Ryan Preece. I'm not going to be a complete fade out on Preece. He has had races where he has had moments of glory. Like I said, he's got a 16.2 average finish on non-super speedway ovals. So I don't mind taking some Ryan Preece this week. Not going to be super heavy on it, but not a fade either. Austin Cindric, $7,100, starting in 10th. He's one of the faster Fords. Not the fastest. I think he's like 3rd on the Ford chart. Out of the 5 racers we're comparing to, he's never finished in the top 5, though, twice in the top 10 with a 17.8 average finish. He's got one start at Indy where he finished 7th. So that part's good for him. Let's look at his practice chart. Started off really fast and then was pretty much average the rest of the time. So the problem is he's starting way better than average. He's starting in the pretty much the top 25%. So his practice speeds were probably at 50%. So he's going to need to do some work here. In his last 10 non-super speedway ovals, he's got a 20.8 average finish, best of 10th, is that's where he's starting, and his best Indy finish is 7th, which was only once. So 10th to 10th isn't going to cut it. I can just know it. 34.9. Nope, not going to cut it. I don't have a whole lot of interest in Austin Cindric. I mean, you could throw him in one or two lineups if you're running 40. So not an absolute no-go, but definitely not going to be in a lot of my lineups. Daniel Suarez right there with his teammate at Trackhouse, starting in 31st, and Ross Chastain starting in 33rd. So at least they are consistently bad at practice and qualifying over there at Trackhouse. 6,900. What's crazy is the new Trackhouse driver that's coming in next year to take over Daniel Suarez's spot is on a 3-race win streak in the Xfinity Series. That kid, Zilich, is phenomenal. It'll be interesting to see what he can do in the Cup Series next year with Trackhouse. He's going to give old SVG a run for his money. I know that. Starting in 31st, let's see, he was 24th in single lap, 14th in 10 lap consecutive average. He's got a 17.8 average finish at the 5 races we're comparing to, which might be almost okay enough at starting in 31st at 6,900. He's got a 12.8 average finish at Indy. That's not bad. 2 top 10s. Never finished in the top 5, though. But all 5 races he's finished in the top 20. He's definitely starting outside 31st right now. And his practice speeds actually look better than Ross's too, but still, they're not bad. So starting 31st, I think there's some opportunity here. And I think Daniel actually will probably get a little bit overlooked because I think everybody just says, okay, he's done. He's out at the end of this year. They're not going to work with him. I mean, Trackhouse still, they don't have bad feelings for Daniel Suarez, or they would have just fired him. So the team's going to try to make sure he goes out on a high note. So let's say he gets to, what did I say his average finish was at Indy? Sorry. Come on. What is this doing? Oh, great. My computer just locked up. Or at least my program just locked up. Oh, there it goes. Daniel Suarez. 12.8. So let's take him to 12th. Starting in 31st. And then we'll start to cut the baby up a little bit here. 51.35. Easily enough to make it close to the optimal. If we cut it in half, let's take him to 16th. 43.35. That's close. So I don't mind having some Daniel Suarez. And what happened? What did I do here? All right, hang on. Okay, that's better. Oh, look at the pretty picture. Restart PowerPoint. All right, sorry about that. Technical issues. Where were we? Daniel Suarez. Yes, I don't mind taking some Daniel Suarez. 43.35 for a 16th place finish. He's got an average finish of 12th. Now, the last 10 on non-super speedways hasn't been great. It's been 22nd. But we'll give him 16th, which is probably going to be enough. Just on the edge, but enough at 6,900. So, first of our value drivers, I don't mind the Daniel Suarez pick. AJ Allmendinger, 6,800, starting in 9th. Yeah. 12th in single lap, 4th in 10 lap consecutive average. You would think that AJ would be phenomenal at a place like Indy, but not really. 22.6 average finish, or 28th place average finish over 10 races, only twice in the top 10, never in the top 5. Practice speeds were at least better than average all the way across the board, so at least he qualified and practiced close to fairly quick. And I don't mind it. It looks pretty well balanced. And a lot of times when AJ kind of starts in ninth, he kind of just kind of hangs out there all day. So, let's kind of put it on the chart here. Let's just get rid of all the preconceived notions and all the data, and let's just go with a gut check play and say he finishes in 7th. That's 39.99 points. It's above the 35, but it's not much above the 35. So where does AJ need to get to make it a 5th? 5th might cut it if he gets, 4 fast laps. 45 points. 6,800. Let's go look at. I'm going to look at the optimal lineups again real quick from previous. What did we say? 43 points and 6,800. Ty Gillen had 6,500 and was 6,500 and got 58. Yeah, so all last year, 53 points and above. So that's not going to cut it for AJ. What about Pocono? 6,900 at 55 points. So that's probably not going to cut it either. I don't really see a whole lot of huge value plays. 7,200 at 41 points for Chase Briscoe at Pocono last year. Michigan. Yeah, he's going to need to get more points than that. How far up? He's going to need to get to like 48, 49 points probably to be really into consideration. Yeah, he's going to need to finish top 3. Probably. Yeah, and have at least 5 fast laps to get to 49 points. That's tough. The last 10 best finish in the last 10 races on non-super speedway ovals is 4th with a 22.3 average finish. His best Indy finish is 10th. Now that only goes back to 2012. I didn't go further back. He may have had a better finish further back than that, but a young AJ compared to an older AJ is a little bit different. Shane Van Gisbergen, 6,600, starting in 11th. Oh, you're starting way too far up there for me, Shane. He started off and fired off pretty well. They made adjustments and he got worse. That's about what they normally do on ovals with SVG. He typically gets worse as the run goes. For the last 10 non-super speedway ovals, 25.3 average finish and his best finish of 14th, starting 11th. I don't even have to put it on the calculator. It's not going to be good. I have no interest in SVG. So there's another one that you can cross off the list. I think we're at least at like 7 or 8 or 9 drivers that I don't have much interest in or no interest in at all. Michael McDowell starting in 22nd. He has an average finish of 24.8 for the 5 races we're compared to. His finish here last year at Indy was 16th. He has 12 total starts with a 16th place average finish. And look at his practice speeds. They were kind of like Ross Chastain kind of started off a little wonky and then kind of cleaned it up. It also kind of looks a little bit like his teammate Carson Chaos Hocevar. And then they got a little bit better. And they were better than average towards the end. And he's kind of starting average. So if we look at his last 10 non-super speedway ovals, it's a 22.6 with a best of 7th. So we'll kind of go somewhere in the mean. Go with 17th, or let's go 16th. We'll give him one extra. 22nd to 16th. What does that do? Probably not going to be enough, to be perfectly honest. 33.9. How far up does he need to get? Top 10? No, probably even a little bit better than that. Top 8? Yeah, 8th. 9th or 8th. So at least a top 10 for Michael McDowell, who's been averaging 22.6 and has a best finish of 7th at Indy and a 16.3 average finish. Yeah, there's nothing here that says screams top 10. So, I mean, even he's better than average at the end of his run. But at that point, I mean, how far ahead is everyone else if you're starting in 22nd? Eric Jones, 6,300. Ooh, boy, Eric, you outdid yourself in qualifying, I think. But let's look at everything. 8th in single lap. He did not complete a 10-lap consecutive run. He has an average finish of 15th. Okay, that's pretty good for Eric Jones for the last 5 races we're comparing to, at least at 4, because I think he missed the 2024 Pocono race with an injury. Finished 28th in this race last year. 5 total starts with only 1 top 5, which translated to 1 top 10, 1 top 20, a 26.4 average finish. Ooh, that's not too good. The Toyotas fired off fast, and they just got faster and faster as practice went on. The Toyotas are going to be fast. The problem is we don't need it to be faster. I mean, we do need it to be faster in the long run, but that's going to be tough. Family Man says, I'm going to play just because I'm crazy. I think he's worth 2 lineups out of 20. Eric, that is. No, absolutely. Because of his starting spot, he'll have a good pit selection. And I think he can hold and maintain top 5 speed throughout the course of the first run. And all it takes is one good pit stop, and he could lead some laps, and then he could hold position. It is asking a lot for somebody who has a 28th place average finish at this place. But he fired off really fast. P and John Hunter Nemechek, I was like, holy smokes, they're going to get the pole, and they are going to make a statement out of this race. And I think this one was circled, and I think Toyota and Legacy said we're going to go and finish really well here. I mean, the last 10 non-super speedway ovals is 17.5 with the fifth place best finish. He's finished best second at Indy at one point out of his, I think, 6 races. Yeah, I mean, he's going to need to finish where he starts. He's probably going to need to lead some laps. So we'll put it all on the calculator just to see. Let's say he has 7 fast laps. I mean, he really doesn't even need to finish a whole lot better than that. Not leading laps at all. At 44 points, that's close. If he goes and leads 7 laps, 45, he could finish second. I mean, all it takes is a second place finish and lead 15 laps. Lead 10% of the race, finish in second, which would tie your best Indy finish ever, and get you 50 points. I mean, potentially even win. I mean, that would be something that Eric Jones would do. Eric, it's tough starting in third. Yeah, but he's going to be sub 10% owned. I don't think he gets below 5%. I think he's probably going to be like 6, maybe 7%. I don't know. He did fire off really fast in practice. So if people were watching practice, they could kind of have the same process, but I don't think he's any more than 12 or 13%. I think it's going to be more closer to 7 or 8% owned. Because everybody's going to go, why am I going to take Eric Jones at 6,300 starting in third when his teammate was almost as fast in practice starting in 36? Now, he's going to probably have to do some repairs. He'll have to go to the rear. Oh, he's already there. Okay, never mind. Well, that works out just dandy. Yeah, I mean, and John Hunter was by consistent. I mean, by constant. So, yeah, I mean, so John Hunter, 36. If he could just get to his average finish on non-super speedways, which is 19th, we'll probably give him enough to be in consideration at 6,200. He's going to need to finish a little better. 41.9 probably quite won't cut it, but 15th place finish from John Hunter. Absolutely doable. And that's what I'm saying, is a lot of people are going to jump over Eric to get to John because of the place differential. I know I'm going to, but John Hunter and Nemechek's going to be 30, 35% owned, maybe 40% owned because of his price tag. It gives you a little bit of salary relief. And Eric Jones is starting in third. Eric Jones is going to lose a lot of ownership because of just that case right there. So the sneaky play would be go with Eric Jones, hope for that second place finish, and John Hunter gets to 15th, run them both, and they both get 50 points. So, how in the world was he that fast? The entire Toyota garage fired off that fast across the board. I mean, at one point in practice sessions, when you looked up, it literally, I think the top 7 drivers were all Toyotas. I think Byron may have been in the mix, but it was like literally the top 10 drivers in practice were all Toyota and Hendrick cars. At one point, it was like, holy crap. I was like, did the Fords even go out and practice? Austin Dillon, $6,000, starting in 20th. He was 6th in single lap, 22nd in 10 lap consecutive average, with a 22.6 average finish for the 5 races we're comparing to. At least a 15.8 average finish here at Indy. He's only finished in the top 10 twice. He finished 13th here last year, starting in 20th. And he was pretty much that kind of speed in practice. He was just slightly slower than average. So probably like 22nd, 23rd in practice speeds on this chart. Starting in 20th, he's got an 18.7 average finish. I mean, it's just there's not enough. He's going to have to finish better than 13th. He's going to have to finish 9th, 7th. He's going to have to finish in 7th to really kind of come into play. He could probably get away with a 9th at $6,000. That's asking a whole lot when your average finish over the last 10 races on non-super speedways is 18.7. Your average finish at Indy is a 16th. So I don't have a whole lot of interest in Austin Dillon either. If Eric has more points than John Hunter, you just gained leverage on 98% of the field, the ultimate tournament play. Absolutely. Eric Jones is absolutely a tournament play. And he's not going to be highly owned. Yeah, I mean, he's going to be. Yeah, I mean, I think probably the easiest play out there is Eric Jones, John Hunter Nemechek, Ross Chastain, Chase Briscoe, Chase Elliott. Yeah, I mean, I've already got kind of in my mind a top 5, top 10, and then top 15 drivers that I'm looking at. And I just named most of them. And Zane Smith is absolutely right there. Starting in 27th at $5,900. We've got a lot of great value plays that may or may not be super highly owned. Zane's almost can't fly under the radar anymore. He's been finishing pretty well lately. Starting in 27th, he was 5th in single lap practice. Man, it's pretty fast for a Ford. Yeah. 19.5 average finish. It's only 3 races. It's Indy 24, Pocono 25, Michigan 25. But a 19.5 average finish. He finished 17th in this race last year. Look at his charts. He was just slightly better than average. And he qualified worse than average. And he's got a 19.4 average finish for non-super speedway ovals with a 7th place best finish. So, yeah, I don't know if Zane's going to be super sneaky. I don't think he's going to have a ton of ownership. He'll probably be in the mid-teens. But if he just goes and gets, a 16th place finish, it's close. He's probably going to need a 13th, 12th or 13th to be kind of more viable, in my opinion. But he could probably get away with 13th, 14th, 43 at 5,900. I think that works. Got here late. Oh, it's okay, Andrew. As long as you showed up, you didn't miss the party. Hamlin be okay in a backup car? Absolutely. This next-gen car, it literally is, it's plug and play. There'd probably be slight, small differences, but literally the entire Toyota garage, we've been talking about this a lot tonight, the entire Toyota garage, from John Hunter Nemechek to Eric Jones to we haven't gotten to Riley Herbst yet, but Riley might be the slowest. But everyone else in the Toyota garage is top 10 speed. So I have no doubt in my mind that Denny Hamlin's backup car will be top 10 speed. Not a doubt in the world. The question is, will he run into any trouble getting through the field? There's always that's not in your control anymore. And that's the problem and the scary part about taking somebody in 39th. Because it's not a freebie square. It seems like a freebie square, and I used to think it was a freebie square until I got burned so many times thinking it was a freebie square that I'm like, oh, that's really dumb. What am I doing? So, yeah, if all things play out equally, he'll easily be a top 10, and he'll make the optimal. So he'll be 60% owned. So either be with the field or be against the field. And sometimes playing tournaments, you got to be against the field, but you also sometimes have to be with the field on a play like that too. So it's a coin flip. Take him or not take him. So I don't know. It's hard to explain these 39th, 37th place starters at the time. I mean, I would say 65% of the time it works out and it's a push with the field, and you just have to find a difference somewhere else. But Noah Gragson, $5,800, starting in 18th. He was 13th in single lap, 19th in 10 lap. Good for you, Noah. You know what? Actually, now that I'm kind of seeing this, we'll see what Todd Gilliland's speed is. Consistently, the front row boards may actually have some decent average speed. Starting in 18th, when we look at it, he was about average. But he's got a 25th place average finish over the last 10 non-super speedway ovals. And he's got a best of 10th. So let's just go with his best of 10th. And I don't think it's going to be enough. I think he's starting just slightly too far up for me to really want to take some Noah. I mean, 42.9 at 5,800. That's on the edge. He's going to need a little bit of help. I could see playing some Noah. I could see not playing some Noah. I think he is sub 10% owned. He's probably going to be a little bit sneaky. Because all you got to do is jump to Ricky Stenhouse Jr. starting in 32nd, who has a 20.2 average finish for the 5 races we're comparing to, or a 26.5. Ooh. With only 2 top 20s at Indy. And his practice speeds were, oh my gosh, you can't even tell where he is because it literally is almost average. But he's starting in 32nd, so he's starting way worse than average. So that might be a good sign. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. starting in 32nd. He has an average finish on non-super speedways of a 21.5. But starting in 32nd, he just gets to his average, 21st. 32.9. That's probably not going to be enough. But if he gets to his best, which is a 6th, or his best at Indy, which is 11th. Let's go with the best at Indy, which is 11th. 53.9. Now, if we kind of split it all up and we just go to 16th, which would be his best finish at Indy, his best finish in the last 10, along with his average, we'll go to 16th and see what we get. 43.9 and 5,700. It could play. Depends on how everything how all the puzzle pieces fit, but 43.9 could potentially fit. It's definitely top 15 in points, and I'm not going to be a complete fade on Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Probably not going to be super heavily owned, but I will definitely have some ownership. Ty Dillon. Poor Ty Dillon got knocked out last week. So it is Tyler Reddick versus Ty Gibbs for the $1 million. That'll be another fun thing to watch tomorrow. And I'm sure the TV will talk about it the entire race. I want to play Gregson, but man, every week it seems like he just has no speed. I don't know if it's Noah Gregson doesn't have speed or if there just always seems to be a slight issue. Whether it's pit road or because he's always back in the muck, he ends up getting the muck on him, and that makes him slow. one of these times Noah Gregson's going to surprise everybody and get that top 10 finish again. It just Noah's too good of a race car driver to just always be hanging back there. And I mean, front row's got some decent speed. We'll look at Todd Gillen after Ty Dillon, but I think Todd Gillen had okay speed, especially for his price tag. Good lord. But Ty Dillon, 5,500, starting in 26th, and he was about average, so his practice speeds were probably about where he should be for qualifying. He was 33rd and 24th. 26th place average finish, starting in 26th. Finished in 19th in this race last year. I mean, this is the one kind of crazy start. 5 total starts at Indy. He's got a 17.2 average finish. That's crazy. Might be one of his best tracks. We'll go with that. Let's go with 26th and 17th. So 26, if he makes it to 17th, which is his average at Indy, 35.9. Probably not quite enough. It's top 15 worthy. He's probably going to need to get closer to 13th or 12th to really play, which is possible. And at 5,500, I mean, I don't know. He has shown better speed lately. I'm not going to be a complete fade on Ty, but I'll probably only have him in like 2 to 4 lineups. Justin Haley at $5,400, starting in 28th. He was 29th in single lap, did not do a 10-lap consecutive run. He did 16 total laps, but didn't have a 10-lap consecutive run. 23rd average finish for the 5 races we're comparing to. One start here at Indy with a 20th place finish. Let's look at his speed. He fired off better than average, and then got a little bit worse than probably better than average. So his speed was actually a little bit better than average across the board. And he's starting in 28th. There might be a little bit of room for him to run, but if we look at his last 10 non-super speedway ovals, 23.1 with a best of 13th. Split it in half. Let's go to 18th. 28th to 18th. Is that enough room? It's going to be close. I think he's going to need to do a little bit better than 18th. 35 points. Yeah, he's going to need to get to 13th. Would probably be okay at 5,400. Depends on your lineups and how they're built. Probably safer to be top 12. It's a little on the tough side. Well, he's got a 20th. His only finish is 20th. His average running position is 23rd. 10 last non-super speedway ovals, 23.1. Yeah, it's tough. I could see having some Justin Haley, but I could see fading off of him. Todd Gillen qualified at 19th. He was 11th fastest in single lap. Did not do a 10-lap consecutive run. This is the other front row car. So the other two, Noah Gragson and Zane Smith, both fired off pretty fast. Let's take a look at Todd Gillen's non-existent practice, because he only did 9 laps of practice. And most of the time he was outside the average. And he qualified average. It says 11th on single lap. That's why I like this chart here, because, yeah, that may have been right here. He was 11th fastest. But the rest of the time, he was not so good and a little off balance, in my opinion. So, starting in 19th, he did finish 6th last year in this race. But as we heard from Victorious, there was a little chaos at the end. A little bit of Carson Hocevar type of race. I don't think he was the one responsible, but usually he's Captain Chaos. Starting in 19th, he's got an average finish of 20.8 over the last 10 races. I don't think I have to put on the calculator. It's going to be a break even. Because I'm not sure there's much more than what we've got here. I mean, we can move him to 17th, but it's 28 points. I mean, he's got to finish 9th to get to 45 points. And I'm not sure that, I mean, it all depends on the build of whether it fits. Jesse Love. this extra RCR car has been garbage in every non-super speedway race that it's ever run. In fact, I don't have the full stat, but I'll pull it up real quick off of Racing References, and we'll just look together. Racing References. Let's go to Jesse Love and look at his cup starts. NASCAR. He has a start at Bristol, Fort Worth, and Kansas. And he has a finish of 31st, 31st, and 29th. Yeah, it's just it just is not good. And if we look at the other RCR sometimes driver, Austin Hill, who I will not be shocked at all if next week gets suspended for right hooking the 19 car in the Xfinity race today. I know he says it was all accident. It was all accident. It was all accident. It did not look like an accident to me. But if we look at even Austin Hill, even on super speedways, it's average finish 37th, 27th, 20th, 31st. He has a 19th at Daytona, 38th, 33rd, 23rd, 24th. I think they finished at the Chicago Street Course in the top 10. That was their best ever finish. Even starting in 35th, if we look at his practice speed, you want to see something ugly. This is really ugly. Holy crud. This is ugly. Absolutely have no interest in this. This is going to be as bad as Cody Ware, Catherine Legg, and Josh Bilicki. So you can add Jesse Love into the mix of drivers. I have no interest in it. I'm not even going to put it on the calculator because even at best, starting it's not worth the time to put it on the calculator. Sorry, I have no interest. Cole Custer, $5,100 starting in 29th. It was 35th fastest speed in practice. That doesn't even look right because his speed chart is not bad. He's better than average, and then about average. Yeah, but he never spikes down. It's like 50.8 is his fastest speed. But he just runs the average line for the most part. But he's starting in 29th. That's worse than average. So I think there's potential room, but if we look at the last 10 non-super speedway ovals, it's 25.5. Best finish of 19th. I just don't think even getting to his hopefully we don't lose internet connection. I just heard thunder. We do need the rain, though. Gosh, it's so dry here. And it's been so hot. 19th, 34 points at 5,100. I don't even think that even cuts it. He's going to need to finish 15th. Yeah, a 15th place finish for Cole Custer would possibly put it there, but your average finish over the last 10 non-super speedways is 25.5. I just don't know if I have a whole lot of interest in Cole Custer. Riley Herbst, our last Toyota of the group, was he fast? I didn't even put his practice speeds in, so must not have been that fast. He fired off. He had a decent first lap fast speed, and then just gets wonky, really, really wonky. Where's Riley Herbst starting? 25th? Is that even right? I don't think I filled this out right for. Yeah, he's starting 25th. Sorry about that. 25th. And I did not put his practice speeds in, but they're all over the board. This is almost as ugly as this, except for there's actually a few laps where he's decently fast. So starting in 25th, I just think he starts too far up. So I don't have any want or desire of anybody $5,300 or less. The cheapest I think I'm going to go with maybe Justin Haley at $5,400. I'm not even sure I really love that too much. I could do some if I had to. If I had to go and dig deep down here, uh, maybe Todd Gilliland, but he's starting in 19th. I don't think I like that. Um, Probably Cole Custer. Probably is the cheapest I would go at $5,100 because at least his practice speeds were flat. So yeah, the cheapest I'm going to go is Cole Custer 5,100. I just have no interest. I mean, Cody Ware never got close to average. They're a little wonky. I didn't even put Josh Bilicki on the chart because he had 4 laps of practice. 4 laps of practice, and Catherine Legg had 5 laps. I just don't have any interest. They're not going to have any speed, so no interest there for either of those. So $5,100 Cole Custer is the cheapest I'm going to go. So yeah, I'm not interested in. No, this isn't even the right chart. I didn't do that right at all. Where is my chart? 1 second. I always like to go over this. Here we go. All right. Yeah, I have no interest in SVG, Riley Herbst, Josh Bilicki, Cody Ware, Catherine Ham. So there's 5. I have no interest in AJ Allmendinger, no interest in Noah Gragson. I could go do some Cole Custer and I could do some Eric Jones. So there's 7. Todd Dillon, I'm not really that interested in. That's 8. Jesse Love's 9th. On the people I'm not interested in. Todd Gillen starting too far up. That's 10. There's 10 of the 39 drivers. So we're now down to 29 drivers that I can easily eliminate. I don't think I have a whole lot of interest in Kyle Busch or Carson Hocevar. There's 2 more that you could put on the list of guys I don't have a whole lot of interest in. I think Austin Cindric probably is starting too far up. So, and that's honestly kind of how I really go through and build my lineups. Guys I'm interested in. Denny Hamlin, but he's going to be super heavily owned. Chase Elliott, same thing. Ryan Blaney, I don't really have a whole lot of interest in. But out of all the Fords, I probably hate Ryan Blaney is probably the one I would have more interest than any of them. Now the front row guys do kind of intrigue me a little bit. I like Kyle Larson, the Christopher Bell play. This is one of those. Family man, are you still out there? D Pope, dang, I didn't know you were still alive. Definitely, we have to restart this. I took your advice and got a ton of exposure to smaller contests. Good job. No, yeah, my videos typically run 2 hours. We're well beyond that at that point. But I also went on a rant for about a half an hour about which contest to take, and that's perfectly fine. Right out of the gate, Family Man, Christopher Bell is the one that I go, you know what? I really don't know if I have a whole lot of interest in. And those are the weeks that he burns me. Now that I've said it, I really don't know. Now I'm really confused about Christopher Bell. He did rank 5th in all my algorithms, so he could be in play. Just saying. It's always one of those I go, oh, you know what? I really don't know if I gut check like Christopher Bell. And those are the weeks that he burns me. So, love to know your thoughts on Christopher Bell there, Family Man, because we always tend to think the same way, and we both typically get burned by Christopher Bell. Ross Chastain, I think, is going to be pretty heavily owned, but I do like that. The Brad K, Joey Logano, not a huge fan. Not a complete fade though. Just not a. I don't love it. John Hunter, I absolutely love. I love the John Hunter Eric Jones combo. Super cheap. It really lets you kind of afford to play with, and I think the Eric Jones becomes a 5% ownership stake. It is tough fading Bell. Even with the field would probably be what my guess is probably 20 to 25%. So you think go 30% on Bell? I mean, there's room for place differential, which I like. And because of it, the Toyota, they're going to have speed. And his pit crew has always done really well for him. So yeah, I think I've kind of gotten I think I'm back on Bell. I don't know. Just it never sits well with me. I can't ever figure that guy out. The problem is I like rooting for Christopher Bell. He's just a nice guy. Nemechek I definitely like. Alex Bowman, not interested in. Suarez, I do like Suarez because he actually runs pretty well here. And Ryan Preece out of the Fords, I don't mind the Ryan Preece play. Josh Berry starting too far up. Zane Smith, I really do like this week. Ricky Stenhouse, I like. Michael McDowell, no, not that interested in. Austin Dillon, not interested in. Dustin Haley, coin flip. Don't really love it. Todd Gillen starting too far up. So, yeah, that's kind of how I end up working this out as I go, okay, which one of these guys do I know I like? Which ones do I have questions in? Which ones are a fade but not an all-out zero? And then which ones are zeros? And pretty much everybody in this red are absolutely zeros. Pretty much everybody in this orange are zeros, except for if I need a cheap option, Cole Custer is okay. Eric Jones is going to be sneaky, but it's very, very risky starting in third. So, all right. Anybody got any thoughts and questions before we wrap up for the night after this 2.5-hour video and before the storm really comes in and potentially plays havoc with my internet, even though it typically doesn't. But you never know. If not, good luck tomorrow. I think it is going to be on whether he finishes high enough to pay off at that price. I think he will. Do you use Saber Slim? Okay, Saber Sim. Is that how you build your lineups? You just put the guys you like in, and they spit out a bunch of options. I hand build most of my lineups. I got burned when Elliott hit the wall in practice a few weeks ago. Any rules or anything I can carry over to that? I guess I've never used Saber Sim. I've almost always hand built. I've almost always done all my own research. So I've heard of Saber Sim. I don't. Other than I think it's one of the. Oh, John Nemechek? Absolutely. He's one of the fastest. I try to set guardrails. I guess I need to go see what Saber Sim is. I can answer more of those questions next week after I have a chance to kind of look at what Saber Sim is. I think it's like Fantasy Alarm and Rotoballer and those types of sites that you can say, I want 15% ownership of this. I want to make sure I have 0 ownership of this. I'm with True DFS now membership wise, and I use their projections and ownership. Okay. Yeah, I mean, pay for whatever you want. I can pretty much give you most of that information inside this video. Now you have to write it all down. You can't go look at our website. Just because I spend a lot of time just making this video. That's why I'm concerned about anyone with damage. I'm not sure why you're concerned with anyone with damage in practice and qualifying. Anybody that had damage in practice and qualifying is already starting from the rear, and that gives you a lot of leverage on place differential. Okay, I mean, if you write it all down, I mean, I'm not going to ever persuade anybody from not having other places to go look for information, because you can always come back and fact check me here. But most of my information is going to be spot on. I can verify everything, and if it's not verifiable, I'll tell you it's a gut play. It's kind of like the Eric Jones play. It's a gut play. I think he could potentially have a good way, and it's a great way to get different on the field. But yeah, everybody that had issues in qualifying, or was slow in practice, if they were slow in practice, I'm able to see it on the practice charts, and I'm like, hey, this guy was super slow in practice, but maybe every once in a while he's raced well here. But typically those are the guys that I'm like, nope, I have no interest in playing these. Billy Man says, I play the ownership game. That's the way to leverage the field. If someone is high owned leverage by the field, going way under or way over. Yeah, it's like, look, Eric Jones is the absolute best opportunity. He is starting in third. he has the potential, because he was very fast in practice, to hold and maintain a top 5 position. By the way, who is your favorite driver? Kyle Larson, hands down. Been a Kyle Larson fan since I watched him race dirts and late model stock down in Florida before he ever started in trucks, Xfinity, or Cup. I mean, I've been a fan of him for 15 years. I'm also a big fan of Josh Berry's. I was a Mark Martin fan forever and ever and ever and ever and ever since I started watching. I was never an Earnhardt fan. I always respected Earnhardt, but I was never an Earnhardt fan. I really like Junior, and I love Junior's podcasts and stuff like that, because it's great to hear the old history. And usually Junior's theories and analysis are spot on. Every once in a while he gets a little something I don't agree with, but that's okay. So yeah, those are kind of my favorites. I like Denny. I also like to hate Denny. I mean, I respect Denny. I kind of look at Denny as a the old Dale Earnhardt that you kind of love to hate. Now I also have to like Denny Hamlin because my mother-in-law was a huge Denny Hamlin fan, was in the fan club. We actually went down to a meet and greet with Denny at the Hall of Fame. Gosh, it must have been 2013. And I put like $20 into his raffle for his Hamlin Foundation and got drawn out first. And that was a weekend hot pass, full access to the garage and Denny for any race that year. So we went to the Brickyard 400 2013 and had full pit road access for practice, qualifying, the race, and everything. Now we didn't want to stay down on pit road for the race because at Indy you wouldn't be able to see anything. They'd just be like, shoot, like, okay, not going to see him for another minute. So we got seats up in the stands, but other than that, yeah, it was phenomenal. That's my pop's favorite driver, number 5. I like some Blaney as well. Yeah, Blaney's not bad. I like Blaney. My mom's a Jeff Gordon, so naturally a Jeff Gordon fan from the start. Very cool. Well, we do this every Saturday night when there's a Sunday race, and if it's not a Sunday race and it's a Saturday race or it gets a little wonky, if it's a late Sunday night, maybe we'll do Sunday morning, but 90% of the time we are here at 9 o'clock on Saturday nights. We go over this for about 2.5 hours. Good night, Jeff. We'll see you next week. Good luck. And also like Gregson, but I don't know. I put top 10 D in. Yeah, you can't build lineups in DFS with drivers you like. It's like you don't bet on your favorite team. Don't bet for or against your favorite team. It just never works out. You get your heart broken one way or the other. So do the same thing with DFS. Build the lineups based on the data that's available and the stats that are available. And if you think it's a gut check play, be okay with that. Have the gut check play, but be understanding that a lot of times your gut's not always right. Sometimes it pays off, but the safer play is always go after the data. The data and the stats are what win these tournaments. And not being the same as everyone else. You've got to play the lineups differently in big scale tournaments. And the small tournaments, cash tournaments, or cash plays, it's completely different. You're more than welcome, Pope. I appreciate you tuning in, and we'll be here next Saturday for Iowa. I think Iowa's a Sunday race. Pretty much sure. It could be a night race, but I think it's a Sunday night race. Either way, if it happens to be a Saturday race, we'll be on Friday night at 9 o'clock, but 9 o'clock Eastern, usually the day before the race. We'll see everyone next week. Good luck. have a great night, and good luck, and let me know if you end up hitting a bag. See ya.
Gentlemen, start your engines. 40 cars coming to life.
He still takes the field? Yep. Love it. Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here. Only about one thing tonight, getting the W, so gotta be around the end to do that. Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checkered. You're fine. Nobody's got to run. Checker pass, baby! Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the best car here, bud. Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job. Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend. What a weekend. Good job. Thank you.